What is happening, savages? You are listening to the voice of Immortal Coil, your oracle of whiskey mysticism. Revolution is my name. And I just did a very silly thing. I have been talking on the microphone for about half an hour, not realizing that I wasn't live. So I'm going to have to go through some of these things again. But I do want to thank you for showing up, those of you who are with us in the chat. And whether you're listening to us on the replay or whether you're here with us now, then I definitely want to thank you. So yeah, we got a interesting show for you tonight. Let me go ahead and do the intro, and then we'll get into it.
Maybe in the last minute of your life, you want to be something more than a goddamn savage! Annunziare Mendaccio. Prego, sono Spirit rats, insanity. He wanted like fantasy. Whale one, forbidden sight. He searches under up the shadows and you like this, girl? You like being food for the immortal?
All right. Fuck that van. What's going on, savages? You're listening to the Throats of Immortal Coil, your oracle of whiskey mysticism. Revolution is my name. I appreciate you who have come out on such short notice. I'm not going to give like the full legal spiel because we're not really going to go over any news articles, but I do want to say that we are dealing with sensitive subject matter, and some of this stuff might go against your sense of religion or spirituality. But I'm here to talk about my journey, and then once our special guest gets here, we'll be able to bounce some ideas off each other. But meanwhile, I'd like to invite you to join me in the Savage Salute. Lift high whatever it is you are imbibing. Here is to us what is like us. Not a goddamn thing. It tastes like the Akashic Records. Okay. Typically, I do a show on Sundays with our good friend Supreme Heretic Drew. Did I just call him Jew? You can find us on Twitter, although I don't know why you would want to be on Twitter because it's just a fucking joke. This is me, Immortal Coil, at immortal_coil. You can see my past few posts have been kind of more on the creepy side. I've been following this guy called a UFO Bot, who also has an account called Illuminati Bot and Conspiracy Bot and shit like that. So I've been bantering with him. So a lot of this shit is recently exercised, in my opinion. We also have, let's see here. I'm going to share this screen real fast. typically Sundays, I do a show with Drew called Midnight's Prism. And it's a pretty good show. It's a very excellent show, actually, because we have 3 different kinds of hosts. Drew himself presents things in a neutral kind of like, what do you guys think of this? I'm an experiencer. I'm a contactee. I've had paranormal shit happen to me my entire life. And even though I haven't really opened up the bottleneck on that show, that's sort of the function I serve. And then we have another dude, our golden voiced motherfucker, who is more scientific in his approach. And I always joke that we have Mulder and Scully and the Cigarette Man as your hosts on that show. This is Drew's GoFundMe. Well, it's not even a GoFundMe really. It's like anyway, this is how you can donate to him. Drew is starting a new job in October, which is good, but he still needs a little bit of help. So every little bit of help that you can give him helps. Here is the link. I called it the Mother Supreme Fund. That's the link right there. givesandgo.com, Taylor Legacy. And I'm not monetized by YouTube. I am shadow banned. And despite having been at the game for multiple years, I have honest people who fucking mean it, who follow me. And that's not what I'm bitching about. But like YouTube is suppressing my algorithm. So if you feel like tipping me, there's my PayPal, whether it's $1 or whether it's 50 cents or whatever, anything helps. I appreciate that. Joining us, looks like we got Decepticon Cave of Villains. I still want to call him Decepticon King. That's how I know him. Saying, ooh, spooky. Yeah, the joke was the show is like spooky Sundays. That's even what I call Midnight's Prism, because we just get up and we talk about like piercing the veil kind of shit. Who else do we have? We got Lasso of Truth. Enjoy the dulcet tones of Immortal Coil. You're too kind, my dear. We got Small Time Republic. Hail, thanks for coming out. And we got RR. Salute. I appreciate that. I will salute you guys once again. Because beer is tasty. The topic of the show tonight is being psychic in 2022. What does that look like and how does that feel? Oh, and knocking on the door just in time, my good friend, author Stephen Walton.
Hey, man, sorry that I'm late. Hail the chat. Good to see you guys are here. Had a great time over there at Angela Straven checking out the AEW pay-per-view. And yeah, that's why I'm a little bit late. Sorry about that, Immortal.
You're good, man. I actually was a dork and I was like talking into the microphone for 20 minutes before I realized that I wasn't actually live. And I'm sitting here going over like various corners of my own experience, and then like I was like, oh, I'm not even live. Good.
Hey, man, I've made mistakes too. We've all made them.
Yeah.
Like the last year and a half of my life. But it's good to see you guys.
Yeah, it's good to be out. We threw this thing together in such short notice that I don't think most people are going to catch it until the replay. But feel free to share out the links. Subscribe to Walton. He's a good guy. I know people give him a lot of shit, but he's one of the guys. Yeah, he's one of those guys that I actually have a off the internet relationship with, including people like Drew and Tommy and fuckers like that. This guy, we've talked together numerous times. He's helped me out on occasion. And he's a good friend, but he's also one of those people that I feel like I can be more honest with about the shit that I've been through, because I know he's been through shit. And we don't have like the same religion and the same exact outlook on life, but we've had similar experiences. So it's good to welcome you onto the show, buddy. I'm hoping we can get into some deep shit.
Yeah, I love talking about spirituality, period. I've actually have a great talks with people like Sporky News Podcast, who's Christian. He doesn't talk about that much, but yeah, he has a very deep spirituality. There's people all across the old Rogue crew, all across the old, Couple Way Fandom Menace crews that actually have a deep understanding of their spirituality and how they see things. And I enjoy speaking with all of them. I think that, what is it? One of my favorite quotes from all of science fiction is Delenn from Babylon 5. We're all parts of the universe attempting to understand itself.
Correct.
And I really believe that is a very strong statement.
Yeah.
Because we all have different experiences. Every single experience that everybody in this chat, both of us, everybody in the world, all of our perspectives on and our interaction with the collective consciousness are all unique, but they all add to the collective experience that we have as humans.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's like we emerge from that giant ocean that is spirit, and we have our individual experiences, and then we reincorporate, and then the whole can understand itself much better that way.
Well, sometimes it all depends, because I'm a reincarnationist, so I think that some people are here to live a specific function or learn a specific function as far as their spirit.
Yeah, that's one of those things I was going off about before I realized I wasn't transmitting, is that okay, and this is where it's going to get difficult for some people. So if you're like religious or you are closed-minded about this is your warning. Yeah, as a spirit, you get to choose the circumstances of your birth and set up certain interactions with people, and even to a degree, like how intelligent you want to be and what you want to look like. And
can I kick my spirit's ass for my ex? Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah, you can do that.
A couple of them, actually. To be honest with you, a couple exes.
Yeah,
and a couple friendships.
You can do that as a human, but once your spirit, once again, you'll be thanking them.
Yeah. All right,
yeah.
We'll find out.
Yeah. So we got our lovely Wrench Wench, The Lasso of Truth. Yes, please subscribe to author Stephen Walton.
The Lasso of Truth. She does not kneel. If I can segue just for a moment out there on social media, not giving a fuck. Hell, Lasso. Seen you out there with Tommy like a couple of freaking soldiers on the battlefield, not giving a shit, not backing down. It kind of adds to, I'm not going to get into that whole situation, but it adds to how there are, not just in, I know we've been fighting a lot in our entertainments or politics or in any social sphere, really. When you have people that have a monicum of power that are trying to wield it to disseminate misinformation or to break people down or to stop growth in any way by lying, by trying to monsterize people or trying to destroy people. It is all so very important, no matter what sphere that comes in, that we stand up against those types and speak what is going on, what the reality of a situation is. Because misinformation is something that we have had to be fighting for the last several years as we have come up in this YouTube sphere. Lasso of Truth is one of those people. Hail Trina. Good to see you out there standing out with Tommy and letting people know, no matter how big their channel, no matter how big their egos think they are, that an asshole is an asshole. It doesn't matter how many people are kissing that asshole.
Yeah, I only surround myself with true motherfuckers. So
try to anyway, but you get fooled. It's just we all get fooled by, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how talented you are, if you are psychic, if you are an empath like myself. I fell for more than once in my life. I now realize, because of the experiences, and this is why life experience is very important to each individual and why we need to share it with one another. Is I've had to deal with narcissism in my life, narcissists in my life. And, it's they're all around us, those personality types.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I went through a major evolutionary experience and I had to be almost practically destroyed by one for me to understand, the dangers of it and the importance of standing up against such personality types when they're trying to destroy, disseminate misinformation, destroy other people. For their own amusement. I don't know, I don't want to dwell on all night, but the people that Lasso's been standing up and kicking dicks in for, is exactly the same type of personalities.
Yeah. Well, so the topic for tonight is being psychic in 2022. Now, our world is designed to uh, discourage those sort of things. And if you are psychic or whatever, there's those assholes who like wear fucking turbans and rings and have magic wands and do weird shit. They're just not. It's not really presented as a normal thing that anybody can do.
Well, it depends on your place in the world. And it also depends on the situation going on in that area. When the British came into India, I had this conversation with my roommate. He's a Druid. When the British came into India, they within the first couple of years, they outlawed yoga. They outlawed certain types of practices, physical and spiritual practices, because the people in India were very difficult to control because they lived on another plane. They lived on another experience. Had motherfuckers out there levitating and doing things that, to their mind, to where they came from Christian Britain, these things should not be happening. This has got to be, so it's got to be of the devil. So they and it made the people there very uncontrollable in the aspect or means that they were used to having control, because those people lived on a different spiritual level. And this is another reason why people, like, when they're going on spiritual journeys, they kind of go to India. I've heard that a couple of times. Why does everybody on a spiritual journey go to India? Well, that's because the Hinduism is one of the oldest religions on the earth.
The Vedas are thousands of years old.
Right. It's just as old as Judaism. Yeah. And another reason why people actually reach into the Kabbalah or old Judaism is for similar reasons. Sure. There's a deeper spiritual understanding and meaning in those belief systems. Anyway, the British had those practices outlawed because the people were uncontrollable in their terms, as far as how they were used to controlling people, because they understood the connection between between us as humans and nature.
Which is ironic, because pre-Roman times, British Isles were also very connected to nature and had similar understandings. And then they got paved over by the Romans, and then they're just revisiting their karma on somebody else.
It's interesting when you look at the ancient Roman society, because they did have mystics and they did have these understandings, and there were sects that absolutely appreciated them in their polytheistic form. It was the introduction of monotheism, trying to put everything under one house, which, when you're looking at politics and you're looking at religion, you're looking at certain things within human experience, putting things under the one umbrella asserts or creates control. But the problem is that a lot of things everything is connected, but it's not there's not one focal point to it all, and so when you take something like spirituality, I'm not anti-religious at all. Everybody's here for their own experience, and that experience is important to their growth as a spirit. But it's trying to take everyone's experience and put it under one focal point is wrong, because then you're really limiting our growth as a species. And as far as the very complex understanding and the various segments of experience.
Yeah. Well, it's that attempt to try to control the evolution of the Terran human being.
Basically, control the spiritual narrative.
Yeah.
So let's see. How do I explain it? And nothing explained that to me more in my life than being a young pagan, because nothing else explained to me. I reached out time and again. I was baptized Methodist, and I've always appreciated my Judeo-Christian roots. It was very difficult for my family to accept. It was very difficult for my stepmother to accept, who was a half Irish, half German Republican Catholic. You're right, from the Delaware County area, Philadelphia area, who is now, oddly enough, a liberal Wiccan. Don't know what happened, but like, she's there.
Yeah. My mom went through a similar transformation. That's interesting.
Dig it.
Yeah.
Like my mother, who my birth mother, who is a conservative gay Christian, married to a woman living out in Arizona. It was very difficult for her to understand my spiritual path when I was trying to learn things as I was going.
Yeah.
But all of these different people's experiences, all of them have led to a deeper understanding or a better understanding of the different within our own spheres, within our own, you know what I mean? Like, and has luckily given me a deeper appreciation for religion.
So for myself, I started having paranormal and otherworldly encounters before my 10th birthday. I think I was probably like 7 or 8 years old. And I found myself drawn to certain topics. Like as soon as I figured out the Dewey Decimal System, when I was at the library, I would beeline for that 001 kind of end of the bookstore. Did you have experiences as a youth, or did it take you longer to open up to that kind of stuff?
I've always been a psychic. Since I was a kid, I knew my mom is too. I guess where I get it to my matriarchal line is very psychic.
Same.
Mom always knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
Even when I was a little kid, and I always knew mom knew. Like there wasn't any way to get around it. You know, when you're around people that have that all have ability. There was no one in my family who could teach me. Now, like I said, my mom's Christian, very, very Christian. So the way that she looks at her abilities is that's God's angels speaking to her.
Sure.
Right. You know what I mean? So it is Jesus. Yeah. It is the spirit of Jesus or the Holy Spirit that gives her this sight. And I tried to understand it within those terms. I wasn't around my mother all that much. I was actually around my father, who's more of an anti-religious character, and then my stepmother, whom I didn't really get to know. I didn't really get to develop a friendship with until I was about 16. So I had my one mom who was telling me, you know, my birth mother, who was more of the fire and brimstone if you don't follow the path of Christ, and then I had my stepmother, who was like didn't even really want anything to do with kids, and then my dad, who was just like, it's all bullshit. And I'm standing there going, hold on, but I can hear what people are thinking sometimes. Yeah. I know what people are feeling, and I know I saw that coming last week, Dad. You know, like I understood I knew this was gonna happen. It was, and so like you, I ended up, you know, going to the spiritual side, what was it? A new age section,
age,
things like that.
And books would fall off shelves and shit like that.
But I also, at the same time, because of the behest that I, from my mom, went to different churches and tried to find my way there, because I had wonderful experiences with certain people, with certain churches, the Blue Church in Delaware County. There were churches that had people that were very helpful and very loving and very caring. So there was a conflict within me for the longest time through my teenage years. It was because as I began to practice work, try and figure out what my abilities were, I ran into people. The universe will hand people to you for you to learn.
Absolutely.
So
and it's funny, like, and I hate to use hippie terms like this, but somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s, that harmonic convergence thing really lifted the abilities of people who were sensitive to begin with. And I want to say, like, when I was 10 or 11, my mother started to realize what she had on her hands, and she was actually going through her own transformation too. So she started reading like more metaphysical shit. And unfortunately, my parents divorced. So she lived one place and I lived somewhere else. And I was having like dreams and encounters and just like hearing shit and feeling what's inside other people's heads, just like you're talking about. And I was trying to explain it to myself. And I would find, going to like bookstores or to libraries or whatever, I would pick up books and kind of leaf through them. And I'd be like, yeah, no, yeah, maybe kind of a little bit, but it's more like this. And it's like I had that roadmap inside of me and I knew what I knew, but I didn't really like know it yet. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely, it does.
Yeah.
Because that's how I was. It was. I knew what I knew. Like I felt it instinctively. I know that this is right. I know that this is real. But it wasn't like there was no one there to guide me or teach me. I love Mighty Thor there at 1 a.m. He says, "Have you studied palmistry when you flipped through Satan's section of the library?" You know what? I never really learned palmistry. I never went to it, but I did study with Satanists for a time. It was one of the many different types of people I studied with, just to get different perspectives, like Small Time
Sure.
Republic. I'm a Christian, but I love to listen to other perspectives. Hail to that. Because you can always learn something, even if you don't adapt it to who you are. It gives you a better understanding of what's going on.
Well, yeah, like I've read Mein Kampf, but I don't fucking agree with any of it. It's just
right.
But it's a book out there, and it fucking changed the world. So why not understand it?
It was for me. It was like the universe hands you people. It says, okay, you law of attraction. You want to understand this? Here you go. I remember the day that my friend Chris, she was an old girl, was a couple years older in the neighborhood. She taught me a few really cool tricks. And I remember the first, when I took her seriously, the first day I took her seriously, it was like, I can teach you how to give somebody a cramp. Like, what are you talking about? She goes, here, because I was actually working on my aura at the time, is what it was. That was one of the very first things I was ever studying was auras. Yeah. And she balled up her fists and created a shield around it, mentally, and then gave me a cramp, put it right up next to my body, didn't touch me, and next thing, cramp. I'm like, what was that? She goes, I collapsed your aura. I was like, what? Can you teach me more? What is that? And little people just dropped into my life and during my teenage years here and there and started teaching me little things. And then I started practicing the craft and working on my psychic powers. But but sometimes the universe doesn't give you what you want. I didn't study palmistry, bro, but I did. I wanted like pyrokinesis and I wanted to move shit with my mind and set shit on fire.
Yeah.
Like I have stared at a pencil trying to move it on a desk for like a year of my life.
Dude, when I was 19, I had a desk job and I had this piece of like fishing line and a metal washer, and I hung it up, and like in between, like every couple minutes I would stare at it and try to get it to move without touching it. And I got it to move a tiny little bit, but not like Jedi, I just got it to like gently do something. So I totally get that. I also started seeing auras as a teenager, and I know that there's different ways of perceiving the auras. Some people feel it, some people see it, some people just perceive it. But I could visually see it. And the funny thing is that, at least to my perception, auras exist kind of like layers of onion skin. And the more that you see, like if I just look at somebody and I have like I'm turned on to look at auras, they look shiny to me. But if I'm allowed to sit there and stare at them, which people can feel you when you look at them, and they know that what you're,
most can, that's instinctive.
Yeah, they at least have that level of perception. But if I sit there and stare, they do.
Yeah.
And we should even talk about that at a later date, about the differences between how women perceive things metaphysically and how guys can.
Well, yeah.
But if I sit there and stare long enough, it can develop like a picture in my head, and I can start to see all the way to, I don't know if Godhead's the right word, but the part of the spirit that's connected to everything. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is, when I started to be able to do that, the human spirit, or the spirits that inhabit Terran human bodies, I should say, are unique in that they are inspirited. And I don't know if that's the right way to conjugate that, but like spirit moves through them. So even though we're physically small and fragile compared to other and dumb compared to other sentient races, we have that walking with God thing going for us. And when you start to see those higher levels of the aura, you can start to perceive the beings that live on those same densities. And that shit used to freak me out because I'd be sitting in bed, like tripping on things walking around that like most people ignore. And they would see that I saw them and they'd turn around and look at me and goes like, oh, you can, who are you? And then like my dreams would get all trippy and just weird shit would happen.
That's incredible.
And well, and that's the thing when shit's happening to you like that and you're like 15, 16, 17, you don't have many or I didn't have many resources. This is like the 90s. So, you know, the books and the TV shows and the stuff that talked about this kind of stuff was still very sensational, you know, and they would play it up for like, ooh, this is spooky, or like
So you weren't on the early internet. What you would now call the dark web was the early internet. You know,
yeah,
you could get the Anarchist Cookbook in an instant, you know.
Yeah. The only thing that I had access to as a young teenager, there was this thing called Situation Report by O.H. Krill, and it was about MIBs and Greys and the government trying to reverse engineer shit like that. So, I mean, that aspect of my experience, because I have had contact, I was able to kind of look at a little bit. And then there's like the early abduction literature by people like John Mack. But again, like I'm saying, and shows like Sightings, like it was very sensationalized. There wasn't a lot of humanity, like reports of genuine experience, or if there was, they edited it so it seemed more like creepy or weird. I didn't know anybody like I guess MUFON and all that shit existed, but it wasn't anything that I was super interested in because, again, it was mostly just like UFO geeks who wanted to interview people about shit they saw in the sky. It's not like I could go and talk to them about like, well, you know, like these little guys, they show up every now and then, and you know.
Yeah, I take it. The Mighty, when you have a moment, Mighty Thor is dropping all kinds of cool stuff in the chat right now.
What's he saying?
Up top, he said, I'm astonished that psychics don't pay attention to their palmistry. Every psychic ability is listed on their palm lines. I was just talking about the universe hands you people. Well, here we go. It says there are also psychic indications on the natal chart that can be searched as a result of psychic ability. And hand signals change the palmistry, which means that psychic abilities can be acquired. Everyone tried that with a coin on a flat surface. Yeah, brother, yeah. But he also said that my dad could spin a pot can with just a blank mind. My experience moving objects is that it requires intention to move the object with a very subtle focus. It's a subconscious mind doing it. Yeah, maybe that I always put subtlety is difficult for me. I don't know, like meditating with a blank mind. That is one of the hardest things to do. And I'm a caster, and so through my training, I have a manic mind when it comes to those types of things. When it comes to casting, because you got to think it, push it, manifest, make it. But I'm going to start meditating. I'm going to take all your suggestions, Mighty Thor. Thank you for being here. I'm going to give that a shot. Desire to move an object without forceful intent is like you're doing something else at the same time. Yeah. All right. Subtlety is a difficulty of my Tauran state. But I am going to give that a shot. Thank you so much for dropping that knowledge on me, sir. Much appreciated.
I read a good book that once said that psychic ability is like training a muscle. And like everybody has, some people are born like Michael Jordan. He can play basketball like a motherfucker. And if he applied himself professionally, he could rise to great things. And other people are like me who have to train to even bounce a ball correctly. But when it came to like psychic work and dream work and all this other stuff, it's like the potential was there, you know. You were talking about your father and your mother. My mother is Irish and German, and my dad is Scottish. And my father was very much into like Asian philosophy. And my mother was more into the witchy stuff. So she used to read tarot cards and all that kind of stuff. And later on, I found that I could talk to my mother a little bit easier about some of the dream work and astral projection and things that were happening to me. But my father was a little bit more closed-minded, but I could philosophize with him and just kind of like have those verbal debates, those
Awesome.
Zen cone kind of things. Um, have you ever had experiences with astral projection?
Oh, buddy. Yes.
Yeah.
I can astral project. I can mind. I can dream walk. Uh, I have. Matter of fact, in the last year, I began picking that back up, and to great success.
Do you remember the first time it happened to you?
When I was a teenager, when I was my very
Yeah.
first coven, working with my very first group of people as kids, we would
Yeah.
do it. Sometimes we'd be able to do it together, which was a wonderful experience. Exploring either a world of imagination or a different plane of existence with someone else or yourself. Um, did that a lot when I was younger, before I fell into the probably the same trap that a lot of people do when they begin to explore these things. I
Mhm.
found a modicum of power in one thing and um, ran with it. You know, the dark path. It's tasty. It's quick. You know, you get quick
Oh yeah.
results, quick power. So
Unlimited power.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
And so I actually didn't continue on with some of those practices afterward until and I mean actively. Passively, yes, like my entire life, but
Yeah.
actively within the last year, I have had a few experiences where I've been able to walk into people's minds, whether they're awake or sleeping, and and I've had them tell me that, and
Yeah.
it's been a hell of a thing. Um, it is, how do I put this? It's almost a euphoric experience to know when you are separate. You're not separated. There's always a tether. You don't want to cut that tether between you and your spirit when you are projecting or when you
Oh
are
yeah.
walking or whatever you're doing,
Yeah.
because then you're lost and you're going to die. But it's almost a euphoric feeling when you are nothing, when you're almost nothing but spirit. Um,
Yeah. I've had some really strange experiences. So the first time I astral projected, I was 12, and it scared the shit out of me because I didn't understand what was going on, because my consciousness was returning to me at the point where my spirit was reuniting with my body. So it's like I woke up and I slammed into my body and I started screaming, and I like
mhm.
flipped out of my bed, and my dad had to like come and grab me and shake me and like, what the fuck's going on?
It's like being
And
in a
I
car crash.
yeah, it's like I couldn't tell him. I was like, "Oh, I had a bad dream." But I knew what was really going on. And then later on I learned how to consciously do it. And usually like the easiest way for me is if I have the day off and I can kind of go in that like wakey, sleepy in between vibe and early in the morning. Um but I remember like I had this really interesting experience where I got out of my body and I was single. I didn't have family, and I've never had covens or people who want to do that shit with me. And in fact, when people start talking to me about that stuff, I'm like, okay, your dreams are about to get really super weird. Because if you're asking me to help you reprogram yourself, oh shit, son, strap in.
Right.
Um,
It's
but
hard to
I,
reprogram.
yeah, so like I separate from my body and I'm like, sweet. And I go through the wall and I get curious. I wanted to look at myself in the mirror, but the only thing that I could see was just like an energy field. And I was like, well, I guess that's what's expected. So I go back through the wall, and then I go through the wall that leads to outside. And it's funny, I remember like pushing through the wall and having it feel uh like jello or something strange like that. Like there was a physical sensation that I could perceive,
Hmm.
but it wasn't like difficult. It was just kind of like, oh, that's interesting. And then like I could perceive like the drywall and the framing and the window, and just weird shit like that, curiosity shit, nothing that I really wanted to like sit there and like fuck with. It's just like that's the experience of passing through a wall. And then I was like, okay, let's go and play with this. And I would fly down and start trying to talk to people. And what I found was that there is a portion, like there's a corner of most people's minds where they will acknowledge you and kind of like talk to you, even though their bodies are completely consumed in whatever, taking groceries back to their house or like closing their car door, whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And I found like it was boring to talk to them. So I actually flew a little bit further down the road and I started playing with a dog. And the dog was all about it, you know, just like happy and bouncy. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then, you know, like the alarm went off or whatever, and I came back to my body. But
I had an entire conversation with my ex while she was in the shower, and I was in Florida and she's in Delaware. You know, that was a hell of an experience. A few times that happened with her up there, but we were connected through my old coven. Also, you know, I have had experiences with people that I haven't liked. Where I have made them go temporarily insane. You know, wolf eating their brains. You know, I can manifest I'm able to manifest myself into different animal spirits or animal forms. The wolf and the black dragon being two of them, which is why they're, you know, my seal. Which is funny because the wolf is more the predatorial one and the black dragon is more of the protective. I have manifested those forms and others, serpents, spiders, and for different reasons. And that is how well, I mean, it's all projection. It really is all projection, but I call it dream walking.
Yeah.
You know, the spider is usually the one who brings truth or reveals evil. You know, the snakes are more of direction for, you know, directing people. The black dragon is a protector, and the wolf is the, you know, back the fuck up, and you're going to do what I tell you to fucking do. But like I said, as far as pure projection, the most blissful experience I ever had was meditating in I was married at the time. This is about 20 years ago, and I was just meditating in my bed and rose up, decided to fly out the window and fly. I just wanted to fly.
Yeah. R wants to flip you a little bit of shit. He says, don't forget your most powerful form.
Yes. Yeah, wonderful thing. My druidic friend recently taught me, if you are feeling ungrounded, take your shoes off, go to a tree, lay your back up
Put
against
your
the
spine
tree,
against it.
put your spine against the tree, lay your feet on the root, head back, and meditate. It's not. I have not tried it yet, but I'm going to go and do so. I enjoy my roommate is Wolf is his name. Wolf taught me a lot of things in my earlier years. Like I said, I dabbled a lot with the darker stuff then, and when you mess with darker stuff comes to you. So he taught me how to combat things.
Like psychic defense.
Psychic. Well, he's a psychic vampire, and so he taught me how to defend against that, to create the. I don't know if you're familiar. I think you're familiar with this, Immortal. We've talked about it before. The labyrinth around your temple,
right?
You know, around your mind center. He taught me how to create those defenses, and now here we are, 20 some odd years later, and he's teaching me the light side.
It's the journey, you know. And when I was living in Florida, one of the things I used to do that practice, and there were those huge banyan trees that are just like they're as tall as skyscrapers for people who don't know. And yeah, their roots, they like stick out of the ground like 6 to 8 inches. So if you do everything that you're saying, take off your shoes, stand on that fucker, man, it's like a world tree. It really is. And you can follow its, I mean, and their trees are like the oldest beings on earth. You know, there was a tree that they cut down recently out here in Washington that they thought was like 3,000 years old, and I don't know why they cut it down. I actually want to find the fucker and beat the shit out of him.
Well, they are. They're it's your connection to the root, as a, as above, so below, and it's your
Yeah.
connection to Gaia energy. And I've always had a healthy respect for trees. I've always liked Celtic mythos, so I'm very familiar with Druidism, more the necromancy aspect of it, which is kind of Middle Eastern necromancy, Celtic, European necromancy is kind of my thing, always been my thing. And so working with trees, I did the spell of 3 knocks, just things, the basics. I've always had a connection with that aspect of nature, the life death cycle. And it is very important. One of the things that the ancients did that a lot of people have forgotten, and I think this is something you can adapt no matter if you're religious or spiritual or whatever, giving back to nature, keeping that cycle in tune. Everything that we have comes from nature, no matter if it's crafted by man or if it's something natural that we've taken or grown. But giving back to nature is an important part of that cycle, and keeping that cycle alive with you. Because when you give back to the energy that is feeding you in your life, you are creating a self-sustaining cycle of positive growth.
Yeah. Well, I know Tommy's going to meme the fuck out of this conversation, but I want to ask you about creating reality, because once I learned how to do that, shit really changed for me. And I think the first time that I really tried it was I was probably 16 or 17, and I had a friend who got like really, really mad at me because I was just brutally honest with her in a very fundamental way that like went against her self-vision.
Mm-hmm.
And being kids, we don't have the wherewithal to really deal with shit like that. So actually what I did was I drew a picture of her and I surrounded it with hearts representing love, and I said things will change, and I cut it out and I put it somewhere where I was able to think about it from time to time. And I mean, you've talked about making like spirit boxes or spell boxes or something like that, and I guess that was that was kind of my version of it. And it took a couple weeks, but she like came back to me on her own and she goes, I'm not really mad at you, I was just mad at the moment and how shit came out, so don't be a dork and let's continue to be friends. And I was like, wow, that fucking worked.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell her what I did, but I was just like, that's all the fucking proof you need.
Well, going with the flow of the river, first off. And as far as making, this is something that my teacher is trying to lay out to me right now. So there's 2 ways to go about creating a reality. And the first way is my favorite, which is casting, which is bringing yourself into a specific vibration, concentrating on what you want, and making that manifest, aiming at it, making it will, concentrating on it, being manic about it. I will make this happen. I will make this happen. I will make this happen. That's one way of doing it, but that's actually the less powerful aspect, I am finding out now, than raising your vibration and becoming that vibration. And that is by reaffirming affirmations, saying things over and over again about yourself, not pointing it out, but actually making it yourself. Like attracts like. So, in your situation with your friend, had there been no recourse, had she not been able, had she been so angry that that you'd have been basically trying to paddle upriver to get forgiveness, it very well might not have happened, because that was her energy in her direction. But most likely she was your friend, so it just took a little bit of wind in the right direction in order to make in order to get forgiveness.
Well, and that's a valid point. I was not living in her construct of what happened between us. I was creating my own, and I think that that's a big portion of manifestation, because like you're saying, if you're paddling upriver or you're reactionary to things, it takes a different kind of energy than just kind of acceptance and surrendering, and then
Right.
repositioning the self. And that's a very martial arts kind of thing. And it's like, if you ever sword fought or you ever did, I grew up practicing Tai Chi Chuan, and
Oh, really?
yeah, actually, I have a really funny side story, but the point that I'm trying to make on this story is that um, you don't win by trying to overcome the enemy. You win by letting them fuck them own selves up. If that
That's a
makes
very
any
white
sense.
magic way of looking at things. Yes.
Yeah, and see, I've always been more drawn towards the light. I guess I have a little bit of gray in me, but
We all live in the gray.
yeah, I've never had success dealing with dark shit, because I find that, like you were saying, it attracts too much dark energy and beings who surround themselves with darkness and who want
Gotcha.
to feed off of your spirit.
And
But
you're right.
yeah,
You're
but
right.
what I wanted to say, like you were talking about Tai Chi, and that was actually one of my first, like, very powerful um metaphysical experiences, where I met somebody who I could be honest with. So I was living with my mother at the time. Like I said, my father and my mother divorced. I lived with my dad for a little while, then I went to live with my mom for a little while. And she found out that there was a spiritual rebirthing class, which sounds really hippie and hoity-toity. This is probably 1997 ish,
Okay.
somewhere in there. So that shit was all the rage. And there's some people who are better at that than others, and there's a lot of charlatans out there. So you really have to go into it with your sales, whatever, your intuition. But I had been having dreams that I thought they were dreams, but I had been having experiences that I couldn't explain to myself. And the lady who was facilitating the class was a psychic, and she spoke to me about my dream without me having to tell her. And I was like, how the fuck can you do that? And she's like, you're going to understand exactly how to do that, because you don't even know who you are right now. And I was like, well, who am I? And she goes, buddy, if God and church pews and all that, you're sitting on like the second or third row. And I was like, I don't even know what the fuck to say to that. So I just kind of shut up and paid attention, because she was like 60 and I was like 16. So
That was definitely the time to shut up and listen.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. She pulled something out of my head that I didn't have to tell her. This is a master. I just have to sit back and fucking pay attention.
Right.
So I did. And it was very powerful. But then I ended up training Tai Chi. That was my first Tai Chi school. Not my Tai Chi master, but Tai Chi school.
Cool.
The lady who is hosting the event was she was a Taoist. She was a Taoist priestess.
Mm-hmm.
And before I could even like train, and she was like, you need to come here and train. And I was like, I don't have any money. And she's like, I'm not talking about money. I said, you need to come here and train. But before I'm going to teach you anything, I need you to read this book. And she handed me a copy of the Lao Tzu, Tao Te Ching.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about the Vedas earlier in the program. The Lao Tzu is as old or older, and priceless wisdom. Anybody who has access to it, I think it's on the internet somewhere, but there's better translations than others. And it changed my life. It completely changed the trajectory that my life was going on. Because whereas before I was doing these things unaware of what I was doing, but now I had conscious intent behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you decide to dedicate yourself to the arts, man, things speed up quickly. Which is why, I was saying, like, the topic of today was like being psychic in 2022. There was a point where I felt like anything could happen, and then there was a point where I felt like in the ethers that shit was being more contained, or there was an attempt to control more and more. So I guess I want to ask you about that, Stephen. How difficult is it to be psychic or empathic in 2022?
difficult is it? This year specifically?
Well, or in the era, in the age of that, that's just kind of like hooky, clickbaity kind of.
No, yeah, I got you. Yeah, well, it's a lot easier for me now than it's ever been because I just kind of don't care. For the longest time, I cared what people thought, so I didn't tell anyone. I didn't really express it all that often. And I mean, even coming up in the Menace, there was a few times where I became oh my god, that guy, because I came out of the broom closet as a witch, and there I was like, and that the stigma of that still exists to this day. But fortunately, I have found an overwhelmingly open-minded response to it. Being an empath is a very difficult thing for me because you sense everything. At least I do. I guess depending on your level of how much you feel. I walk into a room, I feel it. I feel everybody. If I walk into a situation where someone is in intense emotion, if I don't guard myself, I get drawn into it. I could start crying. I could get angry. I could get sad. I could get happy is the best, the best out of all of them. But there's also downsides to it. I'm a person who at times longs for companionship. So if I'm around people who are very deeply in love or something like that, it can go very quickly from awe to loneliness. You have to, if you are a person who is untrained, you have to learn how to defend yourself. You got to learn how to put up your walls. You're going to learn how to barrier yourself without disconnecting yourself from everything. And that is the most difficult part. Also, there is something that I discovered this last year that I did not even know about in my 40 some odd years of practicing, and at times battling other people with similar abilities. And that is the dark empath. I did not know about this. I did not know that there were narcissistic, sociopathic personalities out there with similar abilities that are a drain instead of being a light. They are a black hole,
and they're trying to exercise that by stealing your
and they steal it. Right? Yeah, I just broke up with one, and they will suck your energy, and they will also mirror who you are. They will mirror your ability. They will mirror your feelings. And so when you're dealing with someone like that, you're looking at a reflection of yourself and not realizing it. So if you love or have hope or have courage or whatever it is, and you're throwing that out intensely, it is being mirrored back to you. It is not the other person, but it is actually yourself. And while this is happening, that dark person is manipulating you and draining you. And they can also read your thoughts, read your emotions, read your body language, read everything.
But they're doing it
predatorially, right, to manipulate you for their own selfish, egotistical, whatever it is, ends, their selfishness. That I have found, I'm still studying on it because I don't want to get suckered in by something like that again. I have found that has been the most dangerous type of person that I have encountered in my life. So being a psychic in 2022 or in your life is constantly trying to evolve, constantly learning, learn how to defend yourselves. There are people out there who prey on you because of your ability, and they have ability. So also, please, and this is something I learned I had to learn throughout my life until like the last 5 years. If you know what you know you have ability. You know it, and you're going to know it if you have it. You know it. Do not let your mom, your dad, your family, your friends, your enemies, your doubters. Do not let anyone take that shine from you. Do not let anyone make you believe that you do not have what your spirit is gifting you, because it's a lie, and it'll make you second guess yourself, and you'll devalue yourself. You're going to run into people on this earth, whether it is whether it is the style of dress that you have, your style of the music you like, your political affiliation, if you have one, like whatever it is in life, you're always going to run into somebody who has a contradictory view or a negative view of what you are or who you are. That's never going to stop. You're always going to have that. And that is because we are very, very diverse, way more diverse people than just your fucking skin tone. Make sure you do not allow someone else's reality, as you know, the reality that they create, like Immortal was talking about earlier, the reality that they create, do not let that change the reality that you have, basically your truth. I hate to use that term, but it's the fucking truth. Your truth. Because your truth is your singular point within the collective consciousness that is true for you as a part of the whole. You stay open-minded to learn, because you can always learn more about yourself or more about the whole from someone else's experiences, from their point of view, even if you do not adapt what their beliefs are. But make sure to always protect yourself psychically. Make sure to protect your mind, protect your body, protect your soul, protect your spirit. Because there's always people out there that are going to try and dim the light that you have or impose their reality upon you. Stay an individual, refuse to kneel.
Somebody ought to fucking market that. I want to acknowledge the chat real fast.
Sure.
The mighty Thor continues to drop knowledge.
Oh yeah.
People are walking batteries of energy fields through the aura. 2 or more electrical charges will balance as they get closer to each other. When you're lower than the other, you become the vampire. And that's an interesting way to look at it. He also says, anyone you feed upon, you will also become. So surround yourself with what you want to become, because inevitably it will happen. And that's the 2 or more in my name principle.
And watching you're having sex with, that exchange of energy means a lot.
And we're going to get into that. I'm going to bring that up right after this, right after these messages, folks. An example of this is if your roommate is a pathological liar, he will also start telling lies as true stories just to participate in the conversation.
Right.
Interesting.
Right, Thor.
Chaley's digging the fuck out of that.
Chaley's, yeah. I was going to say.
Yeah. And she was also saying, I literally was just talking to a friend about how being in a relationship and feeling everything that they feel can be difficult.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because there's a couple of different avenues I want to explore along this trek.
Yeah, I got one.
The first one is you were talking about that loneliness and that longing for connection, because being empathic and being sensitive and being spiritual, I've read the Native Americans talk about that as the alone path, because you're open to something that most of the population is just poo-pooing or thinking that it's woo-woo or whatever, but you're actually like feeling that. So number one, do you actively seek out a relationship with somebody who's psychic and aware, or are you going to accept a partner who's more asleep? And I think more often than not, we pick asleep people because we're not meeting. I mean, there's only like one person I've ever met in my life that I would consider on the same level, but we never had a sexual relationship. So, it's like I found myself with people who had some ability. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Everybody has a little bit, but more often than not, it's like being a Star Wars fan and all the comic books and all the fucking EU shit, but they only just like had watched A New Hope once or twice with their dad or something. So, okay, I want to talk about that a little bit. And then I also want to talk about spiritual sex, because that's a thing too.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Well, I want to address what Chaley said.
Go ahead.
Yes. So the problem with that, and I know exactly what you mean, I've been there a few times, is that there are situations where you or your partner are not ready, have not processed something to explain to the other, or you haven't gone through those thoughts. Because when you're psychic or when you're an empath, there's no hiding. You can't hide anything from us. We know something's wrong. We know that there's something. I know there's something there. What is going on? And that makes us a little bit nuts. It makes us worried, especially if you have anxiety or any kind of anxiety disorder, it'll drive that through a wall because you know something's wrong. When it can be something as simple as your partner is processing an event or processing something, and they are not ready to explain. They're not ready. The problem with being a psychic in a relationship is that it bypasses that filter that we all have. That, you know what I mean? That the filter that we kind of have to protect ourselves. The verbal communication, and it can be it can be an experience. I know what you're going through, Chaley. I go through it myself. I was going through it myself, with someone else, with good relationships and bad. So yeah, that can be really difficult. You know something's wrong with them. You can sense it. You feel it. Depending on your level or type of psychic ability, you might be able to just pluck it right out of their brain. And what you have to balance with that is the acceptance that person, your partner, is not ready to talk about it yet. And trying not to worry that it is something worse than it actually is. But if you start getting those dark pings, if you know they're lying, they cheating, there's something wrong, do not ignore it. Do not ignore it. I did a lot of that. I knew, in a previous relationship, I knew I'm pinging. There's bad pings all the time. Something's going on. I know something's going on. And I would trust in that person's bullshit over my own intuition. But in the good times, there were with in different relationships, I would get a ping and it would be something as simple as they had a bad day at work. They had a bad experience. They're not ready to talk about what happened with that fight at work or their boss at work or something like that. Mm-hmm. And because my anxiety would immediately take it to, there's something wrong with us. So yeah, that is really difficult. I know what you're going through, sweetheart. Just, it's just something that we have. It's a dance that we have to play.
Yeah, it'll work itself out. The mighty Thor coming back. You become what you feed upon becomes interesting for the Muggle community. And I love that.
I love it too.
That feeds upon a psychic. They become psychic or they absorb your abilities through your energy until it runs out. He continues. Mm-hmm. I've met people that thought that they were psychic and lost their abilities after a breakup. Their spouse had abilities and took their energy with them.
Yes, that's what happened. I think
it's also that thing where you start to believe more in their projection of reality than in your own experience, and then you end up surrendering that aspect of yourself. I've had very relatable moments because in some relationships I was like highly psychic and just like on it and fucking like plowing through the fields of reality, and then I had other relationships where I was like, well, I guess I gotta fucking go to work and shit, and then I end up being more of a pleb, even though like the abilities never like really leave. It's just like I'm closing my centers a little bit more in order to exist next alongside this person.
When you're around someone a lot, the entanglement between you increases, becomes stronger. You can dictate it, to a point. Love has a lot to do with it. That love, man, that chakra, that heart chakra, has a lot to do with that entanglement.
And then that fucking sex chakra too. And we're about to get into that.
Yeah, you got to balance.
Let's talk about this first.
Yeah, you got to balance that shit out. So, for instance, one of my recent relationships, my partner. I was the only one in the relationship, but she had a little bit of ability, not a lot. When we were together, it would increase exponentially because now, as I was.
Well, you're also banging her,
right? Well, there was the exchange of energy, yes, but there was also the mirror effect, right? She was a black hole, I was a sun, so I'm shining even brighter because I'm so in love. And that mirror was bouncing right back, right? So I believe I'm looking at twin suns, but I'm actually looking at a black hole. But still, her feeding off of my energy and me constantly expanding my power increased both of our abilities. And now, eventually, it began to suffocate mine. But when we were at that high point, yes, absolutely, her abilities increased her abilities absolutely increased because she was feeding off of my power. Now that the breakup has, been for a while now, her power has dwindled back to what little bit that it was before. I guess until she feeds off of somebody else. But the thing is it was kind of weird. It's like Thor was talking about the exercise, the psychic exercises to grow your strength. Because I had to push so hard to maintain the level of energy that I thought we were projecting. I've actually grown in strength. I've grown in power, and now that I've healed up, I have a lot more ability than I would say ability. I have a lot more stamina in my ability than I used to. So when you're with someone, you do entangle with them. Of course you do. With anybody, with any relationship, you become tighter. You begin to think alike. When you're in a relationship with another, one of the best relationships I ever had was my ex-wife. My ex-wife was older than me, very powerful. She was Akasha Ravenwolf, man. She was great. And she raised me up in my abilities and showed me how to do things and increased. And our powers we were two suns, or a sun and a moon. We were a sun and a moon, just working with one another. That's a beautiful experience. And then again, my son's mom, who was a muggle. She wouldn't say she was a black hole, or wouldn't say she was a moon. She was a muggle. When I was with her, it wasn't. I did get drained down. I did kind of get, like you said, with your relationships. I kind of got pulled down into more of a muggle universe. And it wasn't until the breakup began, which was years before the actual breakup happened. We just started disassociating, that I began to get my power back, so to speak, my personal power back. The exchange of the heart chakra means a lot, and so does the pineal chakra. Yes. Yes, it does. And I think we're going to get into that in a minute. Hail, Parrot Head. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you out there.
He's calling you a tree fucker.
And he always calls you a tree fucker. That's what he does. But you know what? The Parrot Head Network is one of the best networks of
dude, and he has the best memes.
The best memes, and
he's always making me laugh.
Best nudes on the internet. Hail, Parrot
Head.
Well,
and generally speaking, he's a person who wants to try to uplift the spirit, and that's really what I appreciate about him.
He's a part-time troll, and I appreciate him for that.
Well, he is, but I mean, we all are, and he's doing it in the best meaningful way.
Yes, he is. Absolutely.
And woe be unto anybody who pisses any of these motherfuckers off, because they will come after your ass. We're still getting some really great shit from the mighty Thor. He says it is possible to have the psychic ability in your palmistry, but not have the energy to turn it on. These psychics usually see their abilities appear in crowds because they are boosting energy.
Absolutely.
That is a very good fact. And then there's other people who like, especially in my youth, I remember walking through shopping malls and feeling like so overwhelmed by the shit that everybody's putting out that I had to like dim my fucking antenna.
Oh, dig it. You know what gets me is I'm not. Oh, hold on. We got to find this. Mega churches. All right, mega churches. Mega churches with okay. I'm not, because some preachers, pastors, priests, and priestesses out there are great people, but then you got those people out there, the ones out there that just want to make money. I'm praying for my new car, pray for my new plane. The whole fucking thing, right? And you've got
God wants me to have a airplane,
right? And you've got 500 people in this fucking church. And nobody, right? Everybody's like, down with Satan, and people, people, magic users who use, they're Swiss, like all that, and they're
who's
they're
that guy on TV that used to like beat people with his coat and they'd like fall down?
That's the gifts from like the 2000s. That's great. But you're right. So they're the first types of people to say, that people like you and I are satanic or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yet they are the high priest in a coven of like 500 people, sucking all of their energy and intention and focus into creating, manifesting what they want. Right?
Yeah.
Just selfishly using all of these people's intention and energy
Service to self.
under the guise of a god,
Yep.
to serve themselves. Like you're a witch. You're a bad witch too.
Yeah. And you don't even fucking know it, or maybe you do, and that makes you twice
Well, no, they
as
do.
evil.
They absolutely do.
Yeah.
The Secret. I'll tell you what. If y'all ain't read The Secret, it's so basic. It is really so big. Read The Secret.
That's why it's a huge seller, because people get it.
It's the truth of it. It is the most basic way to affirm and manifest things. And it's a wonderful book. I read that book on a bus ride from Philadelphia to Carlisle, Pennsylvania. And within 2 weeks had a CDL. Didn't know a shit about an 18-wheeler. In 2 weeks, I had my CDL because I read that book and just took it to heart and learned and just did it.
Right.
You can make things manifest. Now, when you talk about changing your vibration to make things manifest, you're setting your tuning fork, your inner tuning fork to a vibration, to attract whatever you want. Make sure that you're putting energy into it too, like physical and mental, because all three count. All
thought,
three.
word, and deed. That is the way to manifest.
Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, that just brought that out. Yeah, Thor was talking about that. I'm like, yeah, it's like every time I watch those dicks on TV, and what really makes me upset, honest to God, is when I see those types denouncing someone, or criticizing or creating a hate train, or against somebody. The SJWs do it on the internet too, and they don't even realize it. They're the first person. They're the first types of people to point at you and label you something evil because you think or do something a different way or pray a different way. Yet they are practicing black magic at that moment. Literally black magic. Trying to curse and hex somebody because they don't like them or create a false image about them.
And get the multitudes to turn.
Right. It's nuts. Some of our YouTubers, some of our top tier YouTubers do that. They try and change reality by lying and casting dispersions. And it's black magic. And you know what the greatest thing about people who cast black karma is? The river's already running in direction. If I wanted to hex your ass, the Walton sniper rifle is ready to rock. I'm sorry. Let's go. What's next?
Yeah. Well, there is something else that I wanted to cover briefly before we get into sexy things.
Sure.
Mighty Thor, and we went over this. You feed upon energy and blah blah blah, and I've met people who thought they were psychic and blah blah blah. That actually really reminds me.
He's dropping some awesome knowledge.
No, just because we read this before, okay. And I don't want to bore the people who have already read it, but that reminds me a lot about the Celestine Prophecy, and that's one of those books that people kept on trying to get me to read it since I was like 14. And I was like, I don't need to read Celestine Prophecy. I fucking get whatever the fuck he's trying to talk about. But then I had like a almost romantic relationship with a really gorgeous woman, and she put the book in my fucking hand and she's like, you should read this. And I was like you said, you have your googly eyes on and your heart's wide open, and I hadn't gotten in her pants or anything, and I was like, okay, I'll read this. This is apparently somebody wants me to read this. And I read it, and I get why I didn't want to read it before. But at the point that I read it and the reasons that I was reading it, this energy exchange really became apparent. And it's funny because it's it's a work of fiction, but it does weave certain spiritual realities into it. So have you ever read that book, sir?
No, I have not.
Well, okay, it's sort of set up to be like a guy starts having intuitive hits, and he was kind of not really a muggle. I would call him a sleeping psychic, and he started following his intuitions, and it led him to Central or South America, and there's a conflict between the natives and the church, and there's sacred objects and shit like that, but he kept on trusting himself, and he got in these situations and these encounters where his spirit and his energies just started lifting. And it sounds kind of dumb, but by the end of the book, he was able to ascend. And it was just really, I think it came out in like 1990 or 1991. It was one of those era of books. And it was just kind of like, wow, that was pretty good. I get why people dig it, but I also get why it wasn't going to be like personally transformative to me. It was just like one of those, like, that's a good fucking book, but I already understand everything that this book is trying to teach me. So
Well, sometimes you need to hear things over.
yeah, and that's what I figured. I figured it was just for emphasis, and I was grateful for the way that it appeared in my life, and it didn't really work out with that particular lady, mostly because it was my fault. But yeah, it was interesting. So now that we're kind of talking about men and women, first I want to talk about the difference in how psychic abilities manifest in the woman matrix and the man matrix. And I'm sorry if people are listening to this who consider themselves the Zhejiam or some other fucking gender besides the two that I'm talking about. And really, I'm not trying to insult people who think that way, but like we need to make certain distinctions because you have either two X chromosomes or you have an X and a Y chromosome, and they manifest psychic abilities in different ways. So that's kind of what I want to start with, and then we can get into the sexy stuff.
Well, they do, but there is also the balance of the furies within ourselves. There is we all possess.
Right. Every man has a feminine component,
energy.
and every woman has a masculine component.
Yep.
And it's funny, like as a man, I feel more in touch with my feminine side, which doesn't emasculate me. It just means that I'm more empathetic, and I,
Makes you
like
stronger.
all that kind of shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And as a result, I've been attracted to women who present more of a masculine front, and not that I'm talking about butch dykes with dildos and shit. I'm talking about women who are just like very forthright and fuck you and aggressive and kind of
daughters of the sun. Yeah.
Yes, that's a great way to put it. Yeah. So, I guess we'll start from there. But like, it's interesting to me that more females seem to be psychic and intuitive than males, or maybe that's just the way the public has presented it.
It is a part of their matrix. They're social creatures. Women have been social creatures. That has been their function since tribal times.
This is a good point, Thor. The gender split on psychic abilities has to do with the moon. A woman's cycle is tied to the moon, and she will also have water or air hands and palmistry, which means easy flow of energy.
Yeah.
And I've really been attracted to water signs. I'll tell you what.
Yeah. But that's
Lasso, you rang.
Yeah, baby. What's up? Yeah, Thor's right. So the hidden mysteries are tied more in with women, and it is that's a great strength to have.
The Oracle at Delphi, you know, and we saw it in Cinema in 300, how those lecherous fucking whatever motherfuckers had this woman that was just kind of like swimming and lost in trance. There's a really good book called The Witch of Portello, Portello. And she would use dance as a way to enter the trance and then just start like reading the entire room. And it was set in the 1920s, so it's a period piece. Really, really fucking good shit. So that's interesting.
Men are active, right? Okay, and spiritually speaking, and I don't mean this as a whole, but the way that I've always seen it is men are active, women are passive. Men have active abilities. We're the hunters and gatherers. We're the protectors. We have active abilities. We actively go out and make shit happen.
Thor's right there with you. Men have a dominant sun energy, an earth practical magic, fiery dominant magic. They are just different types of magic ability. Men see, women feel.
Exactly.
And it's funny. Ability. Yeah, like the women who embrace their psychic gifts become good in one way, and the men who get good and embrace their psychic gifts get like powerful.
Yes, and the thing is that it's not limited to active energy with men is not limited to men. Women can display that too.
Of
You know what I
course.
mean? Like I've met very solar women. I've met very lunar men.
Sure.
So it's I just look at it as like a uniform. This is the default setting, when it comes to the two genders.
Sure.
But yeah, a woman who embraces her passive ability, her psychic and lunar abilities. I've met. I was basically raised and trained by them. I was
Yeah.
wickened around them, worked with them, and a coven full of them. A very goddess-headed temple that I went to for several years, and very powerful, very very powerful. But I've also seen the strength of solar active men who have godhead. Like I'm one of them. I know
Yeah.
that strength, and it is in its own way something powerful to behold. We were talking about relationship earlier with putting two psychics together, or putting two magical people, magically inclined people together, a man and a woman together. You put a goddess head and a godhead. You put them together, you have an unstoppable force. Unstoppable.
Yeah. It's almost like scary to behold.
Oh, it's beauty. Yeah, it's what I've always wanted. That's my dream. Like I said, I found one in my life and married her. We were together for 5 years, and we could do whatever we put our minds to.
Whatever you yeah.
Down, yeah.
Whatever you willed became so. Yeah.
Well, not whatever, because like I said, some things aren't meant to happen. Some things are not meant to happen. You can't will everything in the world, but you have a greater advantage than most, and it doesn't matter. You don't have to be a witch. Honestly, you don't have to be a witch or a magical practitioner. Like you can just be a man and a woman who owns themselves, who owns their abilities. And one of the reasons why, if I can just segue, you're right, RR. Honestly though, one of the reasons why the elite want to destroy the nuclear family, want to destroy the idea of that strong man, woman, mom and dad at home family is because it does not matter if you're Christian, not religious, the Jew, the witch, it doesn't matter. When you have people that work together, when you have a man and a woman in a home, two people working together to further the home, to support one another, to raise kids, to do it, you have a very powerful force that can dictate its own universe, that could dictate its view of reality, their own reality within that family unit. And the elite knows that. It's one of the secrets of life. And that's why they're trying to destroy that. It's why they've been trying to create single family homes and single moms, and they want to just destroy the image of the man and emasculate men. And all of that is connected to this. All of that. Because psychically, you have two psychics that are doing that together. I mean, they have a few more tricks. They have a few more tricks than anybody else. But honest to God, you can have Joe and Mr. and Mrs. Methodist with a family that understand themselves in masculine and feminine, the masculine and feminine terms, and have a strong home and support one another and love one another and are good with. And you can have the same damn effects. It's the same effects, the same strengths. I didn't mean to segue too hard on that, but that is really one of the reasons why they're trying to destroy the image of the family, emasculate men and masculinize women, is because they want to destroy that balance.
Yeah, well, and it's also a measure of population control. If you have guys who think that they're girls and want to turn their dicks inside out to make pussies.
Oh my God! What do you see the article about that? The young woman who fell for all that fucking gender bending garbage bullshit and had her breasts removed and had all that surgeries done, and now she's like, oh my God. You know what I mean? She finally got away from her loony leftist parents, and now she's...
Well, and Jordan Peterson talks about that, like the number of people who have had corrective surgery for whatever the fuck gender dysphoria they experienced are committing suicide in like record numbers.
Well, I mean, that's the people who had gender dysphoria had a high suicide rate to begin with. It's just they preyed
Sure.
on those poor people since 2012.
Sure. Well, they create
people are getting
that
along?
mental imbalance. They teach it in school,
Oh, yeah.
and then next thing you know, people are like surgically altering themselves, and then
Yeah.
they figured out that they're not in line with what the fuck.
The
You know, and
Christians were mellowing out, Immortal. You remember in the
Yeah.
2000s? Okay, we had probably one. I'm sorry. With
no, you're all right.
y'all Republicans out there, I'm my bad. But look, I'm sorry. The Bush administration, they're full of shit. I'm not saying Clinton was any better. I'm not saying they set up all the shit that Bush and Cheney and those assholes did.
Yeah.
But even with those stuck up, corrupt motherfuckers in the White House trying to dictate, what they presented as their values to the country, the Christians mellowed out. In the 2000s, they mellowed out. They were like, "Yeah, we're tired of this fight. Y'all gays want to get married? Let God deal with it." Like y'all want to worship the earth. All right, whatever. Y'all, God deal with it. They were mellowing out.
Yeah.
It was the elites at the top that created that bathroom debate. Try and get something that everybody mostly universally.
And that's a good point. Like, I don't care who you want to fuck or how you want to look or what you want to call yourself, but as long as you're not hurting anybody and you're not breaking the law,
Right.
fucking power be on to you. But like
Yeah.
the media and the politicians, they want to use these things to divide ourselves, and we're not even going into like race or fucking whatever.
Well, they just we were chilling out. The racism had gone down. Like everybody was beginning.
It's like
to
the
accept one
'60s never
another.
fucking happened to these people.
No, the problem was these are the hippies. These
Yeah.
were the hippies. These were the flower children that grew up and
These are
decided,
the ones that
what the hell? I
sold
wasted
out.
my 20s and my 30s, so now I'm going to create laws, and I'm going to,
Right.
because I didn't get done with the shit I should have gotten done when I was too busy, smoking pot and dropping acid and fucking banging so and so.
Yeah.
Like they didn't get their shit done, so they were angry old people. That's pretty
Yeah.
fucked up. It's just
It is, buddy.
using that debate, using gender dysphoria to a segment
To
of
manipulate.
already a weak, right, less than 1%, and already a segment of the population that's going through enough. All right, I don't have gender dysphoria. I imagine that's a freaking nightmare. But to actually begin to spread that illness and use it as a cudgel to reignite old fights because the
Yes.
fucking elite
Or
were
divide
upset.
and conquer.
The
Yeah.
elite were upset that the whites and the blacks were getting along, and the Christians and everybody else was getting along, and we can't have that. They're going to start pointing the finger at us, the real people causing the freaking issue.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. And that's
All right, I'm
that's the
chilling.
entire thing. And again, I want to state, like, we're not saying any individual who feels like they don't fit in any category. We're not saying that you're wrong for saying that. We're just
No.
we're trying to establish some grounds for what
Right.
we're
If
about
you're
to talk
born with a
about next.
wee-wee-
Right.
If you're born with a wee, you're this. And as far as the conversation that we're having, that's all we're saying.
Yeah. So, and it's just one of those things. So, like, if you were born as a female, you have certain predilections that are inherent to your genetics. Yeah. And then the same thing, if you were born physically a male, you also have certain predilections determined by your genetics. And
But
yeah,
I would say that there is an argument, though, Immortal. I would say that there can be an argument made because, as we know, each of these three planes, mind, body, and soul, follow one another. So I do actually give a little bit of leeway when it comes to if you are taking drugs or doing things that changes the biochemistry of your body and your mind, that is absolutely going to alter your spiritual energy as well.
of course. And then we're talking about willful reincarnation, and I believe that there's a whole wave of spirit that wanted to come in and kind of decide for themselves what that means to them. I don't think it was our generation specifically. I was telling you, I was talking for like 20 minutes to myself because I didn't realize I was live, and I was starting to talk about like indigo people and crystal people, and I fucking hate those terms, but I don't know how else to describe it because there's waves of spirituality that came in because the people who were born who fought World War II are a lot different than the people who protested Vietnam. And then those people are different than the people raised on Sesame Street, and then those people are different than the kids who only know smartphones and internet and never fucking knew anything else.
Right.
People have different shit that they're dealing with on a spiritual level, and they're coming in at the points where they realize that they can start to exercise that. But anyway,
We were trying to talk about sex.
That's what I'm trying to get to, buddy. Like I feel like we kept on talking about shit that's just not turning us on. So like now I have to be like, hey.
All right. Let's stroke the chakra. All right,
okay,
let's do it.
So here's what I want to put out first, and then I'll ask you for your experience. Okay,
Succubuses are real.
They are. It's happened. I have had relationships with women, and I am a straight guy. Okay, I'm not into butt stuff. I'm not into dudes, and I'm not shitting on people who are.
Hashtag no homo. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Hashtag no homo. This is who I am. And parrot head, I don't fuck trees either. So don't you get any ideas? But in my own personal relationships, I have been intimate with women who were not psychic at all. And that's not why I was there. And then I've also had sex with women who I would consider sleeping psychics, like they were inherently powerful, and they would sometimes do things and not realize it, and sometimes say things that were so wise that I
put a finger in your butt like when you weren't looking.
No fingers and butts for me, but like and that's an example. The woman that I ended up having a child with, I would consider a sleeping psychic, but she was very powerful when she needed to be, and she's a great mother and all that kind of shit. I'm not trying to talk bad about her. It didn't work out. But then I've also had relationships with women who were actively practicing psychics, and the quality of, I mean, it's not like with woman C, like everything was just holy and like Kundalini, fucking Indian sex. We fucked like animals at points, but there were points where we were able to just like melt into the ethers together, and in ways that with woman A and woman B, I never could. I could, but they could not join me there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, talk about those three different kind of things, and if you have an experience that you want to share, and I don't think anybody's really listening, and they're not really going to censor us. I don't care if it gets a little bit steamy, but
steamy.
Yeah.
You're talking to Walton, buddy. You want to talk about? Let's talk about fucking. All right.
Parrot head says fingers and butts.
So, all but, honest to God, all but one of all my relationships were women who had some type of ability. All but one. And I remember her.
You lucky bastard.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I thought you were a whore at some point. And
I absolutely have. Oh, I said relationships, not
sex.
Yeah. Relationships.
Okay. And we should distinguish that.
I absolutely was a bad boy. But the relationships that I had, I mean, my oldest
sparkle of direct sunlight, my sweet tree nectar will grant you psychic fucking power. I love that.
First baby mama, absolutely. She had innate ability. She chose not to continue her training. And she,
did she get frightened, or was it just like a relationship?
No, it was a very bad situation between me and my oldest baby mama. With the entire family. So anything that was of me or like me was deemed bad. Anything. Anyway, after that, I was with a woman who didn't have anything, and the sex was okay. I mean, I probably but the relationship wasn't very deep. But after that, every one of them. My second baby's mother is she's a medium. She could see things like with her waking eyes, ghosts, spirits, shit walking through everywhere. And sleeping with her actually because of the exchange of sexual energy that we were having, began
Yeah.
to give me that. It was the very first time in my life that I ever, with my waking eyes, saw a spirit.
That must have been awesome being invited into that. And
Was.
I'm also talking about her, you know.
Her vagina was top notch.
Yeah,
but
dude.
no, everything was when it came to that. Let's see, like for instance, her grandmother passed away, and her grandmother had never liked me, but she was very good to us, and I'm very thankful for what she did. And I tried to just anyway. So, but she would actually come into the house. Like after she passed away, she would come check on her and check on my baby, check on my son when he was an infant, and come through the house, make noise in the kitchen to make sure that I knew that she was there and that she didn't like me. I swear to God, dude, walk into the freaking door. My computer was right there. The door was
I had a
right.
crazy ex mother-in-law, basically, so I get it.
You know, she go into the bedroom, check on her, then come past me, staring at me the whole time. Go to the kid's room, check on the kid, come back in.
You're like, you're just mad that I'm pegging your fucking daughter.
Dude, it got to the point where I started yelling at her. It got to the point where I had to threaten her. I was like, listen, I'm going to bless and put a protection. So I'm going to banish you from the house. If you don't, you can come in and check on the girl and the kid. But if you don't stop this teasing with me,
I will not tolerate you being.
I will not. It got to that point, dude. It was every damn night. It was like a routine. I know. Okay, here we go. I can feel you. Yep. All right, you're gonna start moving the depth. Oh, there are the dishes. Yep. I know you're there. So. Yeah, so I've had a few relationships like that. Then one, my, like I said, the first time I ever dealt with a succubus was recently, and that was.
Did you say threesomely?
Recently, that was an entirely different experience because I was being drained of my power, and I honest to God didn't think I thought that was a myth, or I thought that was just like angry dudes would say that about chicks, or what, you know what I mean, like she used me, she's a fucking succubus and all that. They exist, trust me.
Oh yeah.
And it would drain my power, and it would increase hers. I witnessed it. I saw it. It was very nuts how that went down.
Now she had psychic gifts as well,
but she also did have Well, as the
and she was using it darkly.
The longer that I was sleeping with her, the longer that we were entangled, and the more energy I threw in her direction, the more she fed from me.
He said, "I see dead people." She said, "I know." But she
I swear to God, yo, I had to yell at this old dead woman. I was like, it was the weirdest damn thing in my life I had ever had to deal with. Weirdest thing in my life. But she would also but she was legit a medium, dude. Like I can sense, and I always had been able to sense spirits, ghosts and spirits.
Yeah.
That's never always been a thing. But I had never so intensely had been around or in situations where they were interacting with the physical world until I was with that woman. Wow. And never began to develop the ability, some of the abilities that I still have now to a certain extent, from exchanging sexual energies.
Yeah.
And becoming even more tightly entangled.
Yeah.
The exchange of sexual energy with someone else, I had always known was a thing. It wasn't until I was in a situation where I was actually being drained of my power, where I was being manipulated, used, lied to, in this weird narcissist game of making me apologize for things that weren't my fault, being blamed for everything, accepting crumbs when I should have been standing with a queen. You know what I mean? Yeah. It wasn't until I was dealing with that situation that I really and then got away from it, stopped sleeping with her, and actually got away from it. Remembered my own strength, got my power back. It wasn't until then. And
it takes about 6 weeks to get
Immortal Coil. Yeah. I talked to you. I remember when I talked to you, it was like the second week after I stopped sleeping with her. Remember? And you said that to me. I swear, I kid you not, the 5th week I started feeling my strength again. Because I wasn't thinking about her. All that stuff that was happening before, we were talking in private.
To wash off.
Yeah. It's gone now. Now it's all washed off now.
Yeah.
Because it's been since we talked, it's been weeks, and it's been like 2 months ago. But I never understood how important that was.
Walton is like Ray from Ghostbusters. Did you get head from a ghost, motherfucker?
No, I never had sex with a ghost. I am telling you that this woman's grandma was fucking with me. And another thing, strangely, actually, there's another thing I wanted to add. Another thing I want to, it's all kind of off topic, but I wanted to add is this happened with another one of my exes who was also psychic. She had a mother-in-law, a mother who was very overbearing, very controlling, very a narcissist herself. And I kid you not, I watched after this woman died. I watched my, at the time, lover or girlfriend change. I watched her become literally, like, you know how most people say that women become their mothers and all that shit.
Yeah.
I literally saw this woman's behavior change into her mother because people can become possessed.
Yeah,
People
but your
can
influence
themselves
exited her,
become-
and then she allowed
Why?
her mother. Yeah,
Her mom never left. She wanted to stay and be that attachment, be that cancer cell that she always was in that life, and actually possessed.
that's my
her
umbilical cord.
right, possessed her daughter and changed her daughter into a nasty person like she was. She wasn't nasty before that. That is a thing. And if you guys ever experience anything like that, there are certain things that can help you. Get some raw metal, put it in every corner of your house, salt your house, sage your house. Do anything you can as if you were, if you're learned to combat demonic forces against something like that, because that kind of possession not only keeps the spirit on this plane instead of moving on, but it also destroys the life of the person that family, that nasty family member or whoever it is possessing.
Yeah.
I watched it happen. It's real. I kid you the fuck not. It destroyed my relationship. I eventually had to move out and get away from it because it took a woman who was very giving, compassionate, caring woman, slightly troubled, but I mean, so am I. So we're just two train wrecks helping each other. But I saw her become like a bad person through possession, and I tried to tell her. I tried to get her to do something about it. She didn't want to listen to me. The possession was strong. By the time I realized what was going on, it was too far in.
Too late. Yeah.
It was too late. Yeah. So, but that is some real shit, guys. Anyway, back on topic. So, the exchange of sexual energy is so very important. Watch who you sleep with, even if it's a one-night stand. When you exchange energies on the sexual level with someone else, it does. There is an actual exchange, not just body fluid,
Correct.
but spiritual energy, and it will affect you. And it does take over a month for it to go away.
We were talking about auras earlier. You actually grow cords in between your chakras with the people that you're intimate with, and to a lesser extent your friends and all that kind of shit, but not the same way that somebody who you're like banging. So that's also why it hurts when the relationship ends, because those cords are getting cut and you're having to draw them back in and you're having to figure all that shit out. I did want to tell a story though, and since we're on the subject of spiritual sex, right?
Ever see High Spirits? Immortal Coil, I think, has.
Actually, that's funny. I've seen a guy who he did cocaine and he was walking down the street and I could see the mucus around his head. It was funny. This is different though. I'm trying to be sexy right now, Thor.
All right, be sexy.
Get your goddamn hammer.
I'm spiritually stroking it right now.
Right, exactly. So okay. And this is to describe the quality, and I'm gonna go into a little bit of, descriptive language. So put your kids to bed. They don't need to listen to this. Put your grandma to bed, unless she's dirty bitch. So okay. The lady that I ended up having a child with, we were fucking, right? She was riding me. It was good. We're doing all the things that feel good to us because we had been together for years. So we knew exactly how our bodies worked. But she's the one that I would call a sleeping psychic. At times she was very insightful and she made fucking shit happen, but she wasn't. I would start to talk to her about spiritual things and she would listen to my stories, but she was like, yeah, I don't know. I haven't made up my mind yet. But then I'd see her do things without meaning to do it. And I was like, this is why I'm with you. But this particular night, and this is the night that we conceived, and I knew the second that we conceived because I swear to God, Stephen, it felt like lightning shot out of my cock. And then she spontaneously started crying.
Wow.
And it was like, what the fuck just happened? And she was like, I don't know. Cause like we never had like weepy. I mean, we had I love you sex, don't get me wrong, but it was never like, oh, this is so beautiful. You know, and I'm not knocking people who do that. That's not what I'm here to say.
Tears make great lube. Go ahead.
It does, but we were both like, what the fuck just happened? And she was like, I don't know. And I was like, I don't know either. And we were like, good night. And then like, I shit you not, like a week later, she comes back with like a pregnancy stick and it had the double lines on it. And I was like, are you sure?
Wow.
And she's like, I think so. And I'm like, let's go buy a different brand. And she pissed on the second stick and it came back with the 2 fucking lines on it. And I was like, okay, I think I see where this is going, but let's go get you checked out by a doctor. And sure as shit, she was like 2 weeks pregnant. And I was like, you know when this happened? It's that night that you cried and that I fucking shot lightning up your womb.
That is crazy.
Yeah, like that's the kind of shit that happens to me though, man. And I can't talk to anybody about this except for like you and 8 other people, it looks like.
Lasso says she knew when she conceived her first son.
That's awesome.
I believe it. Yeah.
That is awesome, sweetie. It's not something that happens to everybody. And it's one of those things like it was a highly intense sexual moment for me. Don't get me wrong. It felt great. It was like, what the fuck, you know, like,
a lightning-gasm sounds awesome.
It was great, dude. But like the effect that it had afterward and the circumstances of my daughter is a completely different topic. I don't want to get into that shit while we're talking about sex and shit. But
sorry.
You know, but to compare the quality of that to say like the time I met this other girl in Las Vegas purely to bang, you know, like I thought I loved her and all that kind of shit, but like it was clearly about sex. Mm-hmm. We were supposed to meet up and I was like, yeah, you know, there's all these restaurants around and there's like all this shit to do. No, dude, we got a hotel and we fucked for like 3 days straight. Every position, like against the wall, up and down, on the bed, on the floor. I remember actually, I was writing part of a book and she started sucking my dick. And that was like one of the best, like fucking things that, cause I was writing spiritual shit too. I wasn't just writing like, you know, I woke up and I fucking jumped in my car. No, I was writing about like real shit. And she's like sitting there sucking my dick while I'm channeling shit from beyond.
Was the best chapter in the book.
It probably was.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just so you can have those peak experiences with people who aren't necessarily all the way spiritually awake, but there's a different quality. And then I should even talk about the one that was awake. This is a woman that I knew from my martial arts class. And I'm going to beat on my chest a little bit. I was 17 and she was 22. You know, so it was one of those things. And we were partners in some kind of like heart chakra exercise. And we both like looked up and stared at each other and we knew not only that we were going to fuck, but like we both had talents and that, you know, this is different than any other person I've ever encountered. So she was psychic. She was like a dream walker. She fucking talked to fairies. She in the ethers, and she was cute. She was petite. She had long hair and blue eyes and just cute. She was gorgeous. Nice little tits, tight little ass. She was a dancer. She was a martial artist. So she was just, her core was fucking strong. And you can feel that shit as a guy when you stick it in a woman, if her core is strong or not.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, and this is just how the universe works itself out, okay? She was in a relationship with a woman. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I converted a lesbian. That's not exactly what happened, but that's kind of how it played out. Like, she got out of that relationship and she needed somewhere to stay. So for some reason, my mother was like, you can have the spare bedroom in our house. And my mother would go to sleep at like whatever 8 o'clock. And like for the first 2 or 3 days, we were staying up until midnight, like quote unquote, watching TV, and just like that tension is building. And
Mm-hmm. No commercial breaks.
yeah, on the third fucking night, I basically took her into her room and put her ankles behind her ears and, you know, did my thing. And she's like, "You're how old?" And I was like 17. She goes, "You're too good at that to be 17."
The
And I
immortal
said,
boner.
the immortal, yeah, the immortal, the cock of the immortals, the wang of the gods. You know, but it's also one of those things. So like on the first night, like we fucked like beasts just because like that's what our bodies wanted to do. But then we started talking about being psychic and all that shit, and can we kind of do it like that? And we had like this very, I mean, it was like sweet and loving and sexy, and like we could, every part of us could feel every part of the other person. And I have only experienced that like 2 or 3 times in my life, and that was the first time when I was 17 with a 22-year-old. So you have the floor, Steven. Whatever you
All
want to
right.
make of that.
Yeah, I'm actually going to grab a link real quick for my ex-wife who has a store out there. When I first met her, I was oh my god, I was freshly 21. She was 19 years my senior. Saw this woman up on stage singing rock and blues, flaming red hair, voluptuous body, energy pouring off of her.
Yeah.
She could change
Milfy as fuck.
God, man, goddess head on her. This witch with a big old pentagram. I swear to God. Third generation. And she had an energy about her that was intense. I was like, I can't hit on a woman that much older than me. Hell that. I'm Steve Walton, and I did. And we started
motherfucking Walton.
I've always been like that. My ego is unchecked. But I was just like, screw it, I'm gonna go for it. This woman's intense. She's a witch. I want to learn. She's, this is everything I want to know, the spirituality and everything. I can feel the energy pouring off of her.
Was there an immediate sexual vibe between you
absolutely
two?
Yeah, she was gorgeous. I mean, she was goddess head, man. She was full on
saw
powerful
you too.
Lunar energy. She was everything. And so we started talking. What
was her sign?
Virgo. She's a Virgo.
So she's a Virgo and you're a Taurus, correct?
Yeah. And
I'm a Taurus as well.
So let's see, I'm trying to share this copy URL. Okay. And so we started talking, and she found out she was in a coven in Philadelphia that had been established for several years. She was a student of like the Witch of Philadelphia. Like everything about it was like, oh my god, my pagan cock is so hard right now. You know what I mean? Like, and she was gorgeous, and she knew it. She threw it off, and she absolutely loved having a younger man hitting on her. But any kind of barrier that was there was just swept away. And we started seeing each other. We were together for 5 years, married for a year and a day. The exchanges of energy that we had were blissful. We would have ritual sex, and in sacred space.
Excellent.
It wasn't just that sacred exchange. I was taught what that sacred exchange was from her. And we used it in our craft, of course. it was a part of us. I understand entirely what you mean, man. Kosh was a woman whom I'm not sure if we should have been married, but she was definitely someone from my past lives. We were reconnecting. When we saw each other for the first time, our souls were simply reconnecting.
That's a
We
good
had-
fucking point to add too.
Yeah.
How many of these people are in our lives that we knew from before and we came to?
Oh, we absolutely did.
I fully perceived that the woman that I reproduced with, we had like a spiritual contract. And I would tell her, I feel like you did not want to be born. And I called you down here because we had this being to pull through. Interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I put a link in there to her Instagram, guys. That should be able to lead you to her online store. Go ahead and check that out. Her name's Akasha Babos now. She married a wonderful dude who's even younger than me. And they've been married for like over 10 years now. God, gosh, kick it, girl. She I just learned a lot. I was meant to reunite with her. We were meant to find each other again, spend time with one another. And that relationship was literally two people who had been in love previously. Don't know how many lifetimes we were. Don't know if we were son and daughter, father, son, father, daughter, mother. Don't know how many times we had seen each other in our previous lives or been around each other in our previous lives, whether friends or family. But we had there was such a strong love there. It was not something that was meant to last our entire lives. Like we weren't meant to be together again our entire lives.
And it's interesting how spirits will trade roles like that from lifetime to lifetime. Yeah.
And in this, it's strange because I met her right after I'd Wiccaned myself, which is for those of you who don't know, that is a ceremony when you dedicate yourself to the path of the Lord and the Lady. And when you do this, when you do perform that ceremony, you are allowed, you ask for something. What is it that you want from this journey on this spiritual path? Mm-hmm. And I figured I'd ask something in 3 because 3 is one of our magical numbers. Mm. And I asked for a lover, a teacher, a lover, and a friend. And I got all 3 for 5 years. I miss her to this day. But I'll see her again in the next life, and we still talk here and again now. But that was, there's nothing like, and if you guys ever meet a partner like that, and it's meant for life, do whatever it takes to keep them in your life. Do whatever it takes. Because you're very rarely going to find someone like that. I have been looking for a connection like I had with Kosh since Kosh and I decided to separate, and I have not found it yet.
And it's interesting. I guess that's that spiritual longing where you're looking for yourself, and it's up to you to create yourself. But then we're divine beings walking amongst earth, and we know we're divine, but like everybody else is either a muggle or they're just immortal, and they don't care about themselves and they don't care about their own development. So like, how are you supposed to ever have a peak experience? Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. I think we find ourselves doing things like having a bunch of sex, or like getting drunk, or doing drugs, or whatever, just to try to distract ourselves from the fact that there's something important that we have to do, but the chips are stacked against us because of how evil people have designed the world. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I didn't mean to get so wistful. We were just talking about really sexy things.
But... what I love is that Kosh took keep it. I keep it real, keep it moving. Yeah. She made a shirt that said "Creep it real."
Creep it real. Fuck yeah.
It's badass.
Yeah, dude. So I told a story about a sleeping psychic. Tell me about a time you fucked a sleeping psychic. Tell us all.
She was passed out from doing a lot of
right.
We were in a motel room, and I wanted some ass. So I was tapping it for about 45 minutes before she woke up. And then,
by that time, I was long gone.
I had permission. I had permission. She was a real slut. No. Totally in Minecraft. Um, we whew, God damn, gosh. Sometimes I think part of my soul is worth it. Anyway, we were uh sleeping psychic. I mean, I don't know about okay, actually I would go reference that back to my youngest mom because she was up in a medium her whole life, but in her early life when she tried to explain to her parents what she was seeing, and she was seeing spirits and ghosts and things like that, they were very, very, oh, how do I put this? They were closed-minded religious.
Okay.
So they would tell her she was seeing things, stop making up stories, you're lying. They would just they completely programmed into her head that this natural ability, the psychic ability that she had, was a manifestation of her imagination, and that it wasn't real, and they weren't going to listen to it, and she just did not develop it all to the point where when she saw those things, she really thought that there was something wrong in her brain.
Wow.
That's when I met her. And when I came into her life and she's, I am who I am, well, what are we going to do about, this situation? Well, hold on. What we got in the kitchen? Grab that cayenne powder and, grab that onion and just, what are you doing? Kitchen witch spell. And she was around me for long enough that.
And you're how old?
Oh, I was 26.
And how old was she?
Just turned 19.
Oh, dude.
Blonde-haired, blue-eyed, big booty, tight, worked on a farm her whole life, nice core strength. She was in Taekwondo.
Dude, yeah.
Yeah, and so, I
had an 18-year-old when I was 27. So I get where you're coming from.
Right, but her ability was underdeveloped. So she ran to me and my friend Jay, and we came from the same coven. And she started hanging out with us. And then after, I don't know, a little while of just, seeing what we do and just being like, how the hell did that happen? Like the little unexplainable things that happen around spiritual folk like us when we make our will manifest. And she, like little unexplainable things that just fall into place. And she eventually started talking and asked about it. Then she started talking about, the things that she had seen when she was younger. And I was like, dude, you're psychic. What are you talking about? You're psychic. Let me teach you some meditational practice. Let me teach you how to focus this. Let me, show you what to do. No, your mind is not playing tricks on you. You're actually seeing something because I sense something there. I just can't see it with my waking eyes. That's not my gift. So yeah, like as we spent more time together and worked with one another, and I began to teach her one or two things, and we were sleeping with one another and exchanging that energy, and our bond became closer. Then she began to get back what she had lost because of the programming her parents, the bogging down of her natural ability, her suppressing it and being told something that wasn't right. And it began to come back, and to the point where. As she began to manifest it in a very strong ways, the breakdown of the relationship had already begun, which is fucking cheat. Bitch is always cheating on my ass. And once the trust is broken, the wall.
You can't go back. But then it makes me wonder about the impact that you had upon her.
Perfect exchange of energy is no longer present, right? Because you know what I mean? There's a stink on it. There's a poison in it,
Yeah.
It's very hard to come back from that. And the cheating half in that relationship really has to put the work in to repair that damage. It can be repaired, but it takes a long time.
You're never going to live it down. And it's always going to come up in arguments, and the innocence gone, the fun's gone.
It doesn't always have to come up in arguments. No. Because bringing something like that, if one party cheats, all right, and this is why Walton always goes into a relationship with a get out of jail free card. I run into a certain celebrity, honey, I might just have to tap that ass. That's how I kind of get around it.
Sure.
But I've always walked into a relationship and said, all right, you know what? There might be a time when you're drunk. Might be a time when this happens or this happens. There might be extenuating circumstances. A mistake may happen. We all make mistakes. You only get one. That's just what it is. I mean, and that's because that's just part of my compassionate, forgiving nature. And when you get it, if a person cheats on you and wants to repair that and is very sorry for it, and it was a mistake, and they want to repair that, you know what I mean? Like if you're a good, compassionate person and you're trying to repair that relationship too, it takes two. So yeah, you can't bring it up in fights, and after a certain time, because there is a certain amount of time where I believe it is valid, because look, that trust has been broken, and that's why I'm upset about this, because I don't trust you because of this. But after a while, if you really want that relationship to work, you got to drop it. You've got to drop it. You've decided to stay in the relationship. You need to drop it. That's.
I wish more people understood that.
I more people should, really, because if you're making the conscious decision to stay with somebody who has betrayed you on that level, cheating to me is the ultimate fuck. You just said fuck me. You might as well put a dick in my ass. You cheating on me. That's how much of an abomination to the sanctity of our union.
Us. Yeah,
us.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
But cheating is just anyway. So. But anyway, shit, where was I going with that? Anyway, after that had happened, the you know what I mean? It was hard to help her. It was hard to help her develop those things, because she would see some shit that was crazy, and I could feel it. I knew it was there. Motherfucking dead people walking into the damn trailer and coming, you know what I mean? And staring and standing there. Yeah, something's weird. To me, it's just like, is something there?
You can feel something spooky.
Right.
She saw something,
and she's sitting there, it's staring at us, and she's looking at this dead motherfucker like, and it got to a point where it was just, I couldn't help her along that path any longer, and so who knows? So I guess that was my experience with someone who was a sleeping psychic, but she had been deprogrammed. She was born with it.
Yeah, well, and it seems like she chose a very difficult family to incarnate into. That
was a good family. That was a good family. They just had very, very specific religious values that, look, all right, because I love them. I to this day, they love my son, and I love them. But it was their preacher at one time in one October, because they went to their preacher, they went to their religious advisor, they went to their to me would be my high priestess. You know what I mean? They went to their religious advisor to ask, what do we do? Our daughter is dating a witch. You know what I mean? What do we do? And he then took that inspiration to go on a sermon speaking about how Halloween was of the devil, and devil worship is many different things. Right. Totally rammed everything about me to these people, and created a rift in the family for like an entire year. And even though, because I respect traditions and I respect religious ceremony, I respect spiritual ceremony, they were very insistent that he, was baptized Methodist, which to me was like, I was baptized Methodist. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I have no problem. I have no problem with him following your family heritage, what you believe. I have no problem with him following mine and whatever he wants to decide to do. That's where I come from. He wants to be Buddhist, he can be Buddhist. He'll grow up and decide what he wants to be, which is very different from their conservative version of Christianity. And so it got to the point where we're standing up there. I'm at this baptism, and in my mind, I'm in sacred space. When you are in sacred space and there is a high priest or a high priestess directing, they are the directors. They are the instruments of the divine. You listen. You don't, you know what I mean? So I'm in their sacred space, and I am respecting this preacher who's already done shit about me in the past. Who's already done, to create a rift in the family, being completely respectable because I'm in their sacred space and I am following the steps of the high priest. And this dude comes over, goes to the mom and says, do you reject evil? Do you reject evil and all in this world or something? And she says, I do, And then he comes to me and says, do you reject Wicca and all evil in this world?
Ooh.
At my son's baptism in sacred space. And I said, what?
Can you step outside so I can
he kept moving.
Taste out of
I was right. Yeah. I'm like, I'm not going to punch you. But that's the most disrespectful shit, the most misuse and disrespectful shit I could have ever. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. What do I do? I'm stuck. So I just like, what? And he kept going. Like, yeah, you're going to keep going.
Yeah. You just revoked your invitation. Kindly fuck off.
Well, no, I can't. I absolutely cannot, because this is a sacred ceremony to her, to his my son's family. This is their religious ceremony. I had to eat it. I had to swallow that shit. The only thing I could say was what? I'm not going to knock a man out in sacred space. I'm not, no matter what religion it's called. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. You wait until after the
went,
space is
never went back there again. I was like, all right, well, actually, I think I did go back there once or twice after that, but I was a shit-eating grin, like, the devil's here.
Yeah, you're wearing your pentacle.
Right where pentacle proud. What?
Now you got your eyeliner on.
Only respect you get is me not acting a fool. That's the only respect.
Fuck yeah, dude. Fuck yeah. Okay, so I want to. So that was very sexy. That was awesome. But let's move into fatherhood, because I have a very wild story. I mean, I told you the conception story, but I have a story about how my daughter got named. And I was wondering, did you consciously decide to become a parent? Were you in touch with the spirit of your kids before they were born? Did any dreams? Did anything like that happen?
The first time I was 16, I had a hard dick. And I was not pulling out or putting protection on like you should. Kids, please make sure to wear protection if you are having teenage sex.
No, pussy feels so good.
But I did, and it's meant to go there. What am I doing? It's supposed to go there.
That's the function of the male body,
right? But I had dreams before his birth, but and so did she. But I think a lot of that had to do with the impending times that were about to unfold, which were my fault, her fault, but at the core of the situation. But the adults involved either acted like I don't want to know nothing, or the most tyrannical, terrible, destructive forces that kept us apart and made sure that a consistent game was played amongst us to keep me out of their life. And it was very odd, Immortal Coil, because I had promised myself for a long time that when that man died, I would piss on his grave. And just last week, that man died. And I have no desire to piss on his grave.
No, you're a different human now.
Yeah. So anyway, so that, no, not that time. And let's see, my youngest, no, I didn't feel it. I didn't sense it, but she did. She did. And we'd actually broke up at the time. I had gotten enough. I'd had enough for shit and kicked her out. And
so she was like, I'm basically pregnant, or she had
no,
a dream,
she was in from, and I believe this story. I believe Jen and I are we're friends. She was visiting her sister, who was living in Missouri at the time. Her husband was stationed out there, and she was just driving in the car, in the back seat, looking at the window, looking across the landscape, when Angel just came to her and said, "You're pregnant, hon." And then she felt this force, angelic or guardian spirit, whatever you want to call it. "You're pregnant, huh?" And then she saw Nathan. She just saw Nathan in the clouds, as the landscape was rolling by.
Yeah.
Which it's totally believable, because I was dating another woman who was one of my kind, and she actually snapped a picture once. Her and her kid. She had a baby that died of SIDS, and she was at a pool with her other children, and she took a picture of one of the kids jumping into the pool, and behind that child was her baby. It's in the picture. I saw this picture. It was an image of the kid with a crown, with a crown, like an angelic crown. In the
Does she still have the picture?
Yeah. And it's amazing. It's undeniable.
Goddamn book, dude.
It's undeniable. You look at this picture, you're like, all right, is that a double? No, that's not a double exposure. That is a freaking baby. There was an angel. There's a baby angel in this picture.
Wow.
It was freaking awesome. And yeah, so she actually had that premonition, and then as soon as she told me, as soon as she said something, I knew. As soon as she said I'm pregnant, it wasn't you're trying to get me back. It what you know what I mean? Like, and it could have very well been something like that given the dynamics of what was going on at the time. But I just knew
No, but you
right
felt the
away.
correctness of her
Yeah,
words in
I
your
just said, yeah,
spirit because
you're
you
right.
knew.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and yeah, and my Nathaniel Pendragon was born.
yeah. He's the one that you've posted pictures of.
Yeah, that's
He
my
looks
baby.
just like you, except he's tiny.
He is taller than me, thank the gods. Both
Oh, okay.
of the men on both mama's side of the family are taller.
There
Thank
you
God.
go.
So hopefully
Yeah.
he's going to be like his brother Dan. His brother Dan's a few inches taller than me, and hopefully he's going to keep growing. But yeah, he's got his mom's body though, so he got the Moore body, which is a
Yeah.
thin, tight Irish body. So if you ever like build muscle mass, it'll be like that Irish build, that tight and then corded Irish build. Unfortunately, my oldest son got my build, the Walton build, which is like a barrel. No matter how much you
Good,
work out,
man.
you're always gonna have that barrel chest.
They put whiskey in barrels, so
Well, I mean, not only drinker.
So I got a really wild story about my daughter, and it's funny. Mighty Thor's like, I knew before you were born as an astrologer bragging, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But I used to work as a massage therapist because when I was younger, I played around with like energetic healing, but there's no way to run a business that way and get paid. And I mean, I'm sure there is, but it takes a long fucking time. And I could go to a technical college for 6 months and figure this shit out. So, and I actually stayed for a year. I got a degree, and they taught you massage therapy. They taught you anatomy and physiology.
Mm-hmm.
They taught you how to run a small business, and they send you along the way because you could be a productive member of society. So I got a job and I was doing massage therapy, and sometimes clients like to sit there and just talk the entire time, and verbal diarrhea is part of their healing process. That's fine. I looked at massage as like the most physical form of energetic healing because you're manipulating the tissues, but if you know what you're doing, you can kind of like go around and do things. And and I don't know. I don't want to talk about ethics too much, but I think if you're lying on a table, you've consented to be healed, right? So anyway, certain people like to
I
talk.
send it to a happy ending too.
Everybody
Sorry, go
always
ahead.
says that. I've only ever done that for people I was in a relationship with. But then there's other people who just want to shut up, and that was fine. So my ex was probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 months along, and I would start to see the spirit of my baby show up. And I knew because she would show up, and she wouldn't call me like daddy or anything, but she made it understood. Because, okay, you know this, Stephen, but I feel like I have to explain this for the audience. When spirits show up, they don't talk blah 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 blah. Like, you get thought packets, because telepathy is different than what happened to us at Babylon, where they're instilling language and reordering your thoughts so that you have to think in terms of the language that you were raised in. It's just like it hits you all at once, and you can either hit them back all at once, or if you want to go through the exercise, they can sit there and tolerate it, because thought ended up becoming thought at the end of the day. And she would show up, and we would sit there and talk, and we basically came to this agreement, right? And it was, for my side, I was like, listen, while you're unlimited and have access to everything, teach me as much as you can. Come to me, dream with me, walk with me. And then when you're tiny and helpless, I would die to shit. I'm going to become emotional. I will protect you with my life. And that was cool. So then fast forward, we're getting closer to term and we got to figure out a name to call this chick. And I knew it was a girl from like the second she showed me the I'm pregnant stick. And she actually pushed back on me. She's like, well, what if it's a boy? I'm like, well, if it's a boy, let's just name him Bruce Michael, but it's not going to be a boy. And then we went to the doctor and she got, you know, the ultrasound. And of course it was a girl. And I wasn't going to be like, I told you so, but I told you so. You know? So we're leafing through names and we're figuring out shit. And she goes, how about Andromeda? And I was like, well, you know, that's kind of cute, but it's a little bit much. And then she goes, how about Lyra? And I was like, ooh. Now, she liked Lyra because it was pretty and because it's a stellar constellation and all that kind of stuff. But according to my experience, Lyra is the ancient home of the human race. So I consented to that. And then she goes, well, what about the middle name? Because we were in agreement that she was going to carry my last name, at least until she gets married or whatever the fuck. And I was like, I don't know. Because you want a name to have a rhythm. You know? So we're trying to figure it out. And I go to work and weeks passed. Like it wasn't like the next day or nothing, right? But weeks passed and I start like zoning out in the middle of a massage and my mind goes blank. And then I hear the middle name Michelle. And I started thinking about it and I was like, oh, that rhymes. It's like, you know? And I'm not going to tell you guys my last name. I don't want to dox myself fully, but I finish up the session and I rush to the phone and I call my ex and I'm like, hey, I know the middle name. So I'm going to take you out to dinner. I'll lay it out for you and then we'll be cool. And so we go to dinner and it's not anything fancy. It's actually fast food, but I took her to dinner. And I'm like, okay, are you ready? And she's like, yeah, I'm ready. I'm like, are you sure? Are you ready? You want to hear this? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, the middle name should be Michelle. And she goes, oh my God. And I was like, what? And she goes, well, a couple of hours ago, I was just kind of like zoning out and I thought to myself that the middle name should be Michelle, but I didn't want to bring it up to you because I thought that you wouldn't go for it. And I was like, yeah. And so that's not even the weird part. So the thing is, her father's name was Michael. So Michelle is the effeminate form of Michael, right? But
except in France.
Then you're just French. But then the weird thing was that there was a tradition in her family where sisters would bestow their first name as a daughter's middle name, right? So her
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. Her
patriarchy.
Yeah. So my ex's mother, her sister's middle name was her first name was Veronica. So that became my ex's middle name, right? And then my ex's sister, her middle name was Michelle. So then that's going to end up becoming the middle name of my daughter. And then the really weird part was we got a phone call from her sister, whose name that we took for our baby. And we were like, hey, guess what the name's going to be? Guess what we're doing? You know, and she was like, oh my God. And we said, what? And she was like, a couple of weeks ago, I was laying on the couch watching this TV show about crop circles. Okay. Now, crop circles, you guys have heard me talk about weird shit all night. So crop circles, somebody went out to the crop circle with a metal detector and they dug up this metal plate. Now, I don't think the metal plate had anything to do with the crop circle necessarily, but it was an artifact. And they were taking it around because it had weird markings on it. They were taking it around to like scientists and metallurgists and, you know, just experts in fields, and nobody can give them an answer. So out of desperation, the TV crew took the plate to a musicologist, and the musicologist goes, "Oh, you know what this is? This is musical notation, and it's a song for the lyre, right? The harp, which is the basis for the constellation for the lyra. So at the same time that I am zoning out doing body work, and that the mother is zoning out and hearing this middle name, and that the aunt is watching this program about the lyra, we get the middle name. So my child communicated that name to me. And again, this is shit that sounds unbelievable, but I swear to the gods that it happened, buddy.
Wow, brother.
Yeah.
That's incredible, dude.
Yeah. So I guess that's my big wad to blow. We've been going for about 2.5 hours.
That was a
so-
lightning wad that you
Yeah.
blew before that.
So I want to thank everybody who showed up today. Stephen Walton says 522 77
I was giving that to Thor because he
Thor
read
to do the
Les's,
yeah. Okay. 3 is a triangle, 4 is a square. So they're talking about natal charts. So yeah, I want to thank the mighty Thor. I want to thank whatever cast for showing up. I want to thank RR. I want to thank, of course, the lovely. Where is she? The Lasso of Truth. There she is. The lovely Lasso of Truth. I want to thank the silly parrot head. And then who else? We had Decepticon King. So thanks for coming in. We're going to share out Steven's link one more time. Be sure to go ahead and subscribe to him.
Lasso, you married? You're Capricorn and a dragon? Fire and fire. What's going on?
There you go. You can follow Steven on YouTube. He's also on Twitter. He runs several shows, and he's often guest starring on many different shows. But
not lately, but I'm trying to.
Yeah, lately you've been putting up more spiritually minded videos. Like
I was for a little bit there, yeah. So I need to do that more. I want to keep up with that.
Yeah,
I'm probably going to transfer that to my Lodonis Dragonstorm channel. Doing. I did tarot the other night, and I really enjoyed it on my channel. I'm going to try and keep doing that. Yeah, author Stephen Walton. I want to continue on with more entertainment commentary and political commentary.
Sure.
Go back to what I was doing.
And, and
see if I can resurrect what I had a year and a half ago.
Well, it's very in the world shit, and you're one of the motherfuckers with the finger on the pulse. I try to do some of that stuff sometimes too, but it's very difficult for me to try to reconcile this side of my personality, who I feel is me, versus the person who has to show up and be entertaining on YouTube. So oftentimes I'll try to pick on things like Doctor Strange, where they're doing astral projection and be like, hey, yeah, here's a good movie. And don't even get me started on Lord of the Rings. God damn it. That shit's fucking bullshit.
I gotta go watch House of the Dragon.
Yeah, I've heard that Matt Smith is the best part of that. So
yeah, I'm gonna do a review on. I'm like, God. I mean, I didn't expect us to do a 6-hour live stream earlier. I didn't expect this live stream. So I was going to do the video tonight, but I'll probably do it tomorrow and then have it out on my channel. But as soon as we're done here, I'm going to go watch House of the Dragon and get that and start taking notes.
Well, we all appreciate you showing up, buddy. I don't
had a great time.
I don't think it would have been the same without. Once again, usually on Sundays, I stream with Supreme Heretic Drew. He has a gives and go thing that is in honor of his mother. I call her Mother Supreme. I think that sounds funny. But go ahead and show up and try to help him out if you can. He's starting a job in October, but he's still kind of needing some help out. And then
our little boy's growing up.
He is. He's doing well.
I love to see it.
Yeah. He couldn't do it tonight because he was having some back pain and some muscle spasms. Damn. And then me, if you want to throw me a bone because I am shadow banned by YouTube. Steven knows this. He's known me for years, and not that I love every single one of you, don't get me wrong, but I still haven't broken 400 subs, and it's because YouTube is fucking with me, essentially. I know I could probably put out more videos and all that kind of shit, but like the kind of stuff, like the stuff you were hearing tonight, that's not stuff that wants to get out if you ask the grown-ups.
Well, Immortal, I'm going to be really seriously working on my tarot and spiritual brand on the Dragonstorm channel, and I want you involved in that. And Immortal is
honored.
back at Rogue Entertainment, so you will be seeing him when the new date and time, the new weekday and time is put out there. I decided to move from Saturday because honestly, all my friends are streaming on Saturday, and we already have a Rogue show later.
It's really hard to avoid cross streams, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's like I left. It was, I mean, like I get it because like Drunk and Tom and those guys weren't really streaming around around me on Saturday. A couple other people weren't streaming around me on Saturday, and then I left. I went to work and had to do other things and fell in a gash, and so everybody started doing it then. And we used to be the lead up to the dump on Saturday, and now the dump's doing phenomenal. It's doing really well.
Oh, he's doing great.
There's just too much going on. And then we got Saturday night's main event over on Etep Okulian's channel. Etep Okulian, please subscribe to him. He has been basically the flagship channel of Rogue Entertainment for the last 4 months, and he's been doing it well. Subscribe to him and Tony Tonedeaf and all the wonderful people that stream over there. But Rogue Reborn will be announcing the new day and the new time here shortly. Myself, Immortal Coil, 32 Flavors, and Nick Weiser, Vinny, Chris, and Etep, Tony Tonedeaf, and Brutal Morningwood. And we'll be looking forward to letting you guys know when that's going to be happening. And I'm just trying to find the right time where most of us can get on at least, every other week. So I'll be letting you guys know that as soon as I've got that time nailed down.
That's exciting. I've known Steven for years, and like I said, he's one of the few people that I actively talk to offline. I got a lot of like virtual friends and a lot of people that I love that I haven't actually spoken to, but the people that go out of their way to actually be friends are people that you need to hold close and support. And I've been through several iterations of what we're trying to do with this guy, and it's gonna happen.
Yeah, we almost had it right the last time. We almost had it right. Walt had to stand up and dick punch EVS, and that kind of derailed everything for a little bit. But
there was a bitch involved too. So
I might have fallen for a succubus for a hot minute, and that might have derailed a little bit more. But honest to God, though, I have been lucky enough to have seen so many creators come up, and so many have come through my channel and started. Like if not to toot my own horn, but you probably wouldn't have channels out there like Lorena Creole. You wouldn't have a lot of the YouTubers that you see right now.
I'd even argue Sporkin, man.
The push to get Nina Infinity to 1,000. Yeah. There was, people have come
fucking
through.
Casino Culture
Casino.
Yeah.
A lot of Sporkin News podcast. Fun. I know the Unfamiliar doesn't really stream right now because he's busy building a company.
I missed that
wife,
guy. He would have been great on a show like this tonight.
Final Death Star. Yeah, he's unbelievable. Yeah. Bear Nerd Fun, Wes Moody, one of the most informed, best commentators out there. Please check out Whatever Cast, Supreme Heretic. We've just so many good people. That's Mackany. There's a whole slew of creators that I've had the chance to work with. Script Doctor, Ord's Board, to come through that are now doing very well on their own, and I'm happy for each and every one of them. The team that we have now is probably the most talented crew that I've ever had the pleasure to work with, and I'm looking forward to see how far we can get Rogue Entertainment until we're holding just as many viewers as Friday Night Tights. It will happen. It is going to happen. We have the ability to make it happen. We have the talent, the friends, the connections to make this happen, and we are going to make it happen.
Well said, buddy. Well, again, I'd like to thank you guys for showing up. I know this was last minute, but we actually have actively held a respectable amount of people throughout the entire broadcast. And I know typically the way that it happens for this channel is that people catch it on the replay, and I'll wake up in the morning and there'll be like 50 fucking views and all that kind of stuff. 2 hours and a half is a long time to talk about far out topics, but the kind of stuff that we're talking about is, at least in my experience, more true than what you hear on CNN and Fox News and all that kind of stuff. And listen, geopolitics and the state of entertainment and all that stuff is important, but the reason that is important is because the stuff that we're talking about on broadcasts like this, and broadcasts like Midnight's Prism, and broadcasts like Walton's talking about on his news streams, is because those are the elements that the media and religion and politics are actively attacking. They do not want to see you reach your potential. They want you to be useless eaters. They want you to be cogs in a machine, hamsters on a wheel, go to work, buy gas, pay your bills, shut up, give us your guns, all that kind of stuff. Spirit and incarnation and the journey of the soul is really what it's about. And it's up to you to decide the person you want to be. You know, we were supposed to talk about shadow people tonight on Midnight's Prism, but really the truth is you can play in darkness all you want. You can give yourself to darkness, but then you'll be surrounded by dark spirits. Or you can do something more challenging. You can walk the divine.
The high road ain't easy.
Yeah.
The high road ain't easy.
The high road is not easy. It will leave you bloodied, bruised, battle scarred. I didn't tell a lot of people this, man. I destroyed my car last week, and I walked out of that shit amazed because I was not really hurt. I mean, I was bloodied and all that kind of stuff, but it's like somebody wants me here, and the only person who can kill me is myself, but I'm not going to do that. So you realize, like, through shit like that there's a real reason for you being here. And the best thing that I can think of is that my best skill is my voice. Even in high school, I was gifted at communication. So that's what I'm going to do. This isn't the last you're going to hear from me. And once again, I want to thank the chat, best chat on YouTube. I want to thank all the new faces that I've seen. There's a lot of brand new faces. There's a lot of familiar faces. And I want to thank my special guest, author Stephen Walton. So from us to you, have a great night, and we will talk to you later.